Okay. Okay, so we're back with a Yu-Gi-Oh! News episode you might have missed, and there's been a lot to talk about since the last time we chatted, which was all the way back in February. So we're going to be looking at quite a few things today. Of course, you know some of the guests that we've got. So we've got Obelisk Blue 13, and we also have Grunt. With Obelisk Blue 13, he just posted some new content related to an opening that you guys will definitely want to check. So it's really, really good. And then, of course, we can't wait for Grunt to get content going. I think he'll have some good stuff once he gets going with it. So it'll be very good. So, guys, happy to have you here for the episode.
Yep, happy to be here.
Happy to be here too. I just wanted to say though, this one might be a bit bloated because Chrono
Yeah,
mentions February, and that never got uploaded, and it got a little too late to upload it. So we're gonna be kind of
right.
reiterating some
And
stuff from
and
that
that's
point.
okay because now we actually know more about those play sets, which actually works out well. So, the first one that we can talk about that is actually coming out later, well, within a month here, is Ancient Guardians, and we talked about this last time, and it was the Abyss monsters, Dreg of the Abyss. So the way these cards work, a lot of their effects revolve around hitting the grave, and then swarming the field with reptile monsters. So, Grant, have you messed around with the deck at all yet?
So I have been messing around with this deck for a while, and I have seen. I'm not going to spoil it for those who don't know, but there are some other cards that we'll discuss later in the stream that give this deck another way to kind of work. I will just say that there's a lot of accidental synergy with this, and ironically, another Egyptian-based archetype with heretics. And I'm just going to say this now. Looking at Ancient Guardians and what we got throughout it, I think that Abyss are probably destined to be the best theme. Not that they're going to be tier 1, but I could see them seeing the most play at a rogue level.
Okay, okay, I could see that. Carlos, have you messed with the deck at all?
No, I have not. I'm not really. If I'm being completely honest, I'm not too excited about Ancient Guardians. I
Mm-hmm.
think the set as a whole is kind of lackluster, but it is what it is. Konami's been putting out some pretty lackluster sets recently, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So this kind of continues the trend of that.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate because I thought 2020 was a great set release year, and
hmm
man, Ancient Guardians, woo, it's been rough. So,
Yeah,
or even just
I,
some of
I
the other sets, it's been interesting so far.
so
I
I
wanted
actually
to. Oh, go on.
what I was gonna say is I actually really hate how they changed the side deck format, like how it used to be. Hey, you got 24 packs. Each pack had a secret, and every pack had a super. Like I love those all hollow sets. I think they were really cool. It gave us some of the best booster boxes ever. Like
Yeah.
for instance, it gave us Secret Slayers, which I just opened up on my channel. It gave us Spirit Warriors. It gave
Hidden
us
Summoners.
in summoners. It
Mm-hmm.
just gave us
Yeah.
some really really cool stuff. And like I found those decks to be like really fun, even if they weren't like playable. And maybe these decks will be, but like I don't know. I haven't had the same like kind of excitement level for ever since they switched to the new format with three ultras and the collector's rares.
Mm-hmm.
I would have. I personally would have just preferred like, hey, if you wanted to bring collector's rares to the TCG, like that's absolutely cool. No one's telling you to not do that. Just keep the same format. Instead, replace the secret rare with a collector's rare. You know?
Right. No, that makes sense to me. Grant, what were you gonna say?
So what I was going to say is that right now, at least, Abyss. The reason why I say they have potential is because they kind of remind me of Eldritch and or Adamancipator in how people were kind of excited for them at first, and then they didn't really realize what the deck was capable of until they did more experimenting after it released. Like, let's be honest, when Eldritch got first revealed, maybe there was some excitement, but I don't think anyone would have predicted it being a $100+ card. I mean, short printing is short printing, but Adamancipator too. I don't think people were expecting a deck that relied on RNG with deck stacking to work well, but then suddenly you got Block Dragon variants, and again, I'll discuss later a combo with Abyss that people have been experimenting with recently, and the way I look at it, it's like, it's not probably going to be meta, but it's got a lot of lockdown potential, it's got a lot of splashability, and I think that's what makes the deck, decent to consider.
Okay. Okay, makes sense. Well, let's go ahead and start going through the cards. So the first one we have here is Null. And I like that Konami's continuing the trend of making sure that each card has a hard once per turn. I think that's important. So that's a good step for the company. So it says here, the first effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, then send one dark reptile monster from your deck to the graveyard. And all the card effects trigger that way. So it's a really
Mm-hmm.
good starter. And then if you control no monsters or you control an abyss monster, you can special summon this card from your graveyard, but you have to banish it when it leaves the field. But you could easily overlay if you had to here because you're stuck into reptiles, but there are Xyz reptiles that I think would make that work.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Nihil, where again you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. Then you send one light reptile monster from your deck to the graveyard. If this card is normal or special summoned, you get to add an abyss spell or trap from your deck to the hand. So I think the effects are pretty good for both cards.
Mm-hmm.
Grunt, which of these do you think is the stronger of the two?
So it depends on what you're building. Now, modern, like, here's how the Abyss Strat works. The Abyss Strat, like I said, incorporates heretics. So some of the heretics you're using, I mean, heretics are dragons, obviously, if you, for anyone out there who knows heretics. So, which are getting a reprint in Ghosts of the Past, so I think that's just extra convenient. The point is, though, the second effects are probably not going to be as usable, but you would, in certain decks where you're running an Abyss like engine, you do
Mm-hmm.
want to run triple null, triple nihil, because both of them just, they're free foolishes for the archetype,
Yeah.
and literally every other monster in this archetype wants to be in the graveyard, so it gives you a lot of free extension. If you're
Mm-hmm.
playing a more pure reptile build, Null is probably better just because the Abyss spells and traps aren't that good right now. There's maybe
Okay.
one good Abyss spell, and that's the last one they revealed. So Nihil's interesting, but Null's probably got the most application if you're going for a pure reptile build.
Mm-hmm. Carlos, I want to piggyback on what Grant just said there. What do you think about this foolish effect for a deck? Do you think there's going to be other archetypes that try to abuse this?
I'm not sure because a lot of them do like a good job of locking them into like reptiles. So
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely some balancing there. But the foolish effects are obviously I think they're really good. Any deck that has graveyard effects and can foolish stuff on demand, obviously it has some potential. Also, the fact that you can play a card like Snake Rain with this archetype that obviously is really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Foolish Burial for 5 is no joke, guys.
Yeah,
It's really not funny.
absolutely, completely agree. Looking at the other cards here that they've got, so the next one here, if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard or special summoned from the graveyard, target one face-up monster your opponent controls and one monster in their graveyard with equal or higher attack. Special summon the target in the opponent's graveyard to their field, and if you do, send the target they control to the graveyard. So a little gimmicky. Next one, if this card is in your graveyard, you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard and add it to your hand. So it's a way to get recursion. If this, and then the next one here, Zoha. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard or special summoned from the graveyard, you can have your opponent draw one card, and if they do, you add one Abyss monster from your deck to your hand, except Zoa, Haze of the Abyss. Then each player sends one card from their hand to the graveyard. And then if this card is in your graveyard, you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard, add this card to your hand. So we see that effect happening multiple times. Zoha is interesting to me because it makes me think of Dark World Dealings.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a little nervous about that because I used to play that card all the time until I realized just how much advantage it was netting for my opponent. So, Carlos, do you think this is a good card? Do you think one's stronger than the other? Do you think it's going to be an archetype that people they'll have it in their main deck for this archetype?
Um, I definitely don't think these two are as good as the first two.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think the first two are definitely better, and I think these ones in specific are a little bit gimmicky, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, Haze of the Abyss, or let me try to Folgi.
Flogi. I don't know.
Yeah,
Philology, I think that's right. Yeah, there you
yeah,
go.
I think that one kind of like it could have been so much better than it
Mm-hmm.
actually is. Because if it's special summon a monster from your opponent's graveyard, and then it's okay, basically my only issue with that card is it targets, and it'd be cool if it didn't target, so it could get rid of something like Dragoon, but it does, so that kind of sucks. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of these two cards. I think the first two are better.
Yeah.
The first two you definitely want to play. I don't know the ratios because I haven't play tested the deck, but like I feel like the first two are like three ofs,
Mm-hmm.
whereas these are like situational one ofs, if not side deck cards. If not, you're not playing them at all.
Yeah.
You would want to play, like, again, in the builds I'm seeing, which aren't pure abyss, you would probably want to run three of each, and then a few numbers of the ones that we're going to be discussing later. These guys here, again, pure abyss is probably not the best way to play the deck from what I've
Mm-hmm.
seen combo wise. The issue I have with them is that Floki and Zoha here both require you to either send them to the graveyard or special summon them from the graveyard, so they've got no starting potential. It's all about extension.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I wouldn't run three of either of these because you don't probably want to open them. These are something you would want to pitch from Snake Rain or have maybe one or two. Like, this isn't something you would run, which is kind of sad for level 4s, which have decent stats.
No, makes sense to me. I was thinking the same thing. And it is interesting that they keep going back and forth between one light monster, one dark, one light, one dark. So it's an interesting idea, but I feel these could have been much better if they wanted people to stay with that, be pure abyss. So looking at Cursed Dawn of the Abyss now, if this card is in your graveyard, you contribute one monster. Special summon this card, then your opponent can special summon one monster from their graveyard, but its effects are negated. If this card is specialed, you can target one level 4 lower abyss monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but you banish it when it leaves the field. Then we have Aluth. If this card is in your graveyard, you contribute one monster, special summon this card. Then your opponent can add one monster from their graveyard to their hand. If this card is specialed, you can target two of your banished monsters, including at least one reptile monster, and return them to the graveyard. Ooh. That seems pretty rough to me, Grant. Are you seeing a lot of builds incorporating both?
Actually, yes. So the reason why, so again, looking back at Heretics, so I'll go over the combo later down the line, but to keep this in mind, thinking very similarly to you when Curse and Aleth were both revealed. Now, they do synergize with the other two level 8s we'll discuss in a little bit, and because what becomes a plus to your opponent becomes a neg or a null. Aleth is actually what I used to think was the worst one, and now that I see what he's capable of with, like, synergized builds, he can target any banished monsters, so there's more synergy there with other decks.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing I'm going to say is that they're level 8 monsters that can resurrect themselves by attributing one monster, and level 8 is very important for what you want to do with these guys. It's not intentional, probably, for what the deck is supposed to do, but it does work well with combos I've seen out there.
Interesting. Let's go ahead and take a peek at those other monsters you just brought up. So if we look at Aaron, King of the Abyss here, it says if this card is in your graveyard, you contribute two monsters, special summon it. If your opponent adds cards to the hand, except during the draw phase, you can send one random card from their hand to the graveyard. If a monster or monsters your opponent controls is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add a light or dark reptile monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, except Aaron, King of the Abyss. And then we have Amnesia, and I'm not sure, Amnesia. I think that's it. Yeah, something like that. If this card is in your graveyard, you tribute two monsters, special summon this card. If a monster or monster is special summoned from your opponent's graveyard, you can send one card they control to the graveyard. If a monster or monsters is sent from your opponent's hand or deck to the graveyard, you can special summon one light or dark reptile from your graveyard, except Queen of the Abyss. Okay, so Grant, I'll go back to you because you've been watching the deck a little bit closely, it seems. What happens if these two are on the field? What kind of craziness have you been seeing from people?
So it's not really that it's just craziness. Essentially, what these guys do is they make it so your effects from your 4s and your 8s, which would have originally plussed your opponent, makes them null, and then you've got negative effects if your opponent just does searching. So like Aaron here, you'll notice he's pretty much a Dark Law, so which is good because some of the effects we've looked at, I think it was Alith, and I think it was also what was his name? The other level 4, the one that searched and gave your opponent the Dark World dealings.
Yeah,
So this
Zoha.
essentially makes it. So this makes it more of a null for your opponent. It's not maybe the best, but it covers that. It also becomes a Dark Law during your turn. And then Amnesia is probably the better of the two because, again, this is a deck that likes to have recursion and summoning. And again, like with Curse, the other level 8 we discussed, opponent's monster is special summoned. You can just send one card they control to the graveyard, no targeting.
Oh, that's pretty good, yeah.
Pretty strong.
Yeah, that is pretty strong. Targeting, if you can get rid of that targeting effect, that's a big deal.
Well, yeah, and they also synergize with each other because if you look back at both the King and Queen, Queen says if your opponent sends a monster from the hand or deck or field to the graveyard, or not field, hand or deck, I think, what was her effect?
You can special one light or dark reptile monster from your graveyard.
Yes, and then the King obviously says if your opponent monster is sent to the graveyard, you can add one. So they work off of each other very well, as you'd expect from, a King and a Queen. They definitely are something you want to end on because they synergize with each other very well. And you're not going to do that often with tributing. There is another way I'm going to, again, mention later. Let's just say that reptiles have more than just Abyss coming out this year, and a lot of existing reptile support is what's breaking this deck. Not even breaking, but, it's doing crazy stuff you wouldn't have expected at first.
Yeah. Carlos, what are some things you would anticipate with it being level 8s like this? What are some things that you could maybe see people doing with it now that you know some of the synergy?
I'm more curious about the. I'm not as curious with the level. I'm more curious about the fact that they all tribute for cost. I was wondering, is there synergy? And maybe Grant will know this. Is there synergy? Like, could you play
the Monarch Storm 4th?
Layer of Layer of Darkness.
Oh.
Yes, so Lair actually does work with this. Now, of course, the big difference is that King and Queen here do require 2 monsters, so they're not as effective as Alith and what was the other one's name? Curse. They're not as effective as those two because it's a 1-for-1. But I have seen Lair Abyss builds. They're not actually the optimal way to play the deck. They're definitely better than pure Abyss. It's better than the Abyss field spell. I put that in here just because we should talk about it, even though it's a dumpster fire. But Lair is probably a better field spell for this deck than the actual archetypal field spell, and you can play Lair builds with this just fine. They also do facilitate viruses pretty well with their stats. So,
that's a good point. Yeah, all the virus cards that are trap cards, correct? Are those the ones you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and mention the field spell since you bring it up. So, Depths of the Abyss. If a face-up reptile monster you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can target one card your opponent controls, send it to the grave. If this card in your field zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can send cards from the top of your opponent's deck to the graveyard equal to the number of reptile monsters with different names in your grave. Okay, so you don't think this is very good, Grunt? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's not good by modern field spell standards. I mean, Carlos can tell you too. Any person out there can tell you with modern field spells that if a field spell isn't generating you immediate advantage, it's not really something you want to search off terraforming because, you search off a card like Spiral Resort with terraforming, you're going to get advantage off of Spiral Resort. This card targets, first of all, so even its removal effect isn't the best, and I mean, this is literally the only card in the entire Abyss strategy that has to do with milling. So for a deck that doesn't rely on milling, it's just kind of odd to paste the milling effect on here. Maybe you could build a mill version of the deck, but it would be gimmicky, and nobody really wants to send 8-10 cards off their opponent's deck. That's why Grass is banned.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. Carlos, what do you think about the field spell? Do you think, like Grunt's saying, that it's definitely something that could have been better?
Yeah, I would agree. My big thing is all the abyss monster or most of them starters at least foolish burial. The other ones you want to get in the graveyard. So like I think the field spell would have been much better if you just had the ability to search any abyss on activation.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yep.
the effect that they did give it, I'm not the biggest fan of it honestly. So most of the time one of the big things one of the issues I have with it too is the first effect. If a reptile monster you control is destroyed by battle or by its opponent's card effect, you can target one card your opponent controls, send it to the graveyard, right? Well, your opponent's not just gonna blindly like attack into it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like your
exactly.
opponent, they're gonna get rid of the resource before you even generate advantage, and that's pretty much like the
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing that it does. And it's like at that point, it's just kind of a pointless card to play, really.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
I agree with that because players have so much removal. They spend one card for the removal, and then this does nothing for you after that. Yeah, so I completely agree with that. Let's look at the big boss that they've got here. Ogdo Abyss, Deity of the Abyss. Oh my. So if this card's in your graveyard, you have to tribute 3 monsters to special summon it. Once while face up on the field, its quick effect send all monsters on the field to the graveyard, except face up monsters that were special summoned from the graveyard. Grunt, have you seen this in action? Has it been very viable for a lot of the builds you've looked at?
So this is a great card. I mean,
Oh yeah.
essentially, Konami did their homework and they were like, "Well, Zeus is seeing play. Let's just slap Zeus's effect on a boss monster, make it more restrictive because that's what Zeus should have been in the first place, while also fitting in the archetypal theme." Now, this does not see as much play as you would think. It's not bad. It's just
Mm-hmm.
that you don't really want to open this. You can pitch it off of something and you can special summon it because you can tell there's no like clause saying you have to tribute 3 monsters to summon this card. It's just
It says you
you can bring it
can.
out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can. So it's definitely good. It's just not too much else to say. Like it doesn't facilitate much. It's kind of a card you want to end on, but it's not really part of the combo you need to worry about too much.
Yeah, and the cost of 3 tributes seems pretty steep. If there's other
Hmm.
ways to get that out, I would go for those ways, because that's a pretty hard effect. I feel sometimes to pull off.
yeah,
A
that's why the Egyptian gods don't see play.
Exactly. It's hard to justify a 3 for 1. And even though the second effect is pretty good, it's really difficult to get out those 3 resources and to get for 1. It'd have to be better, I feel, in order for that to work. Okay,
Hmm.
so let's go ahead and look at some of the trap
But
cards. Oh, sorry.
something I do want to say, I do wish it was so it is a quick effect, but I wish it wasn't once per turn, or I wish the effect was once per turn, so you could use it like multiple times. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like how it's just once while it's face up. Like I feel like it'd be a lot better if it was once per turn. That's my only gripe I have with the card. Besides that, I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Also, I noticed the abyss monsters have been coming in pairs, like light and dark. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the light boss monster. I'm almost wondering, like, do they have like one hidden in the back? You know, like a dark boss
Oh,
monster
yeah,
that
that's
they're
a
gonna release
great
at
point.
a future date?
They totally could.
Yeah, they could because everything so far has been light, dark, light, dark. Yeah, I could see that.
The only reason they might not, now they could, it has, like, lore hasn't stopped them before, but from what I can tell, there was somewhere I was reading, like, theoretical, like, basis for what this deck was based on. Let me see what they were based on. But I remember reading up that they were probably, like, what is it? Something about them being based on, like, 9 spirits or something within Egyptian lore. There was something about there being 9 of them specifically, so
Hmm.
that's why I don't think there's going to be a dark one. They could do a dark one. I'm not saying they won't. It's just
Mm-hmm.
kind of we'll
That's
see if they really
interesting, Grunt.
value lore over.
I kind of
Yeah.
would like if they did though, just because that would complete it. So I kind of like that.
Yeah.
But I also understand if they're trying to stick with a specific lore, how they wouldn't want to go against that. But that'd be a nice little surprise. I feel if we saw something like that come down the line. Um, Looking at the traps now. If you look at the first one here, Invasion of the Abyss, it says special summon 2 Abyss tokens. If you have 8 or more Abyss monsters with different names in your graveyard, you can apply this effect. Special summon 2 reptile monsters with different names from your graveyard. That sounds pretty difficult. And then Emptiness of the Abyss. During your main phase, you contribute 1 reptile monster, then target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, special it to your field, but send it to the graveyard during the end phase. So it steals something good. If this face-up card in the spell or trap zone is sent to the graveyard, send all face-up non-reptile monsters you control to the graveyard. So, Carlos, do you like these traps? Do you think they're going to be very difficult to work with? What's your thoughts?
Yeah. So I'm not the biggest fan of these traps. One, because traps in modern day Yu-Gi-Oh have to be really, really, like, traps are inherently slow, so they have to be like really, really good to justify playing them.
Yes.
And like, these are fine, but like, I don't think they're like, I just don't think they're justified playing them. Like, for instance, like the first one, or not the first one, rather, one of them needing 8 monsters in your the first one.
Yeah, the first one.
Monsters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, with different names.
Granted, in this deck, it's probably a lot easier than I'm giving credit for, with like stuff like Snake Rain and whatnot. I think that's like a ridiculous clause to have.
I completely agree. It makes me think of just how difficult it can be to get Judgment Dragon out in Lightsworns, and you just need 4. You need 4 monsters with different names. To have 8, that sounds really tough. Grunt, do you see any of these traps in the builds that you've been watching?
They're okay. They're not really make or break. The reason why I say that is because there are easier ways to facilitate mass resurrection than the trap here. It's okay. Like, the tokens get the job done, and the continuous trap, I mean, if you're gonna play layer versions, I mean, theoretically, if there are like generic reptile cards or something in the future, you could maybe justify this. I mean, it's okay. They're just, it gives you something to search off of the 1 monster, the level 4 Nihil. But other than that, there's a better card to search with Nihil, and these guys are okay, but they need more to really be worth running, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree. Now, looking at some of the spells that they've got here. So you've got Snake Lily of the Abyss, and you can only activate 1 card with this card's name per turn. So again, I like that it's a hard once per turn. So you send 1 reptile from your deck to the grave. Then if you have 5 or more reptile monsters with different names in your graveyard, you can special summon 1 reptile monster from your grave. It's interesting, I'll say that, but still 5 or more, that seems awfully large.
I mean,
that's actually easy with Snake Rain, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, really? Okay, well, explain that. How does that work?
Well, Snake Rain pitches 4, and then this pitches number 5, not including the discard from Snake
interesting.
Rain.
Okay, and you said that's called Snake Rain? Is that right?
Yep, it's the card that everyone's been buying out since 10 years ago when it came out, because they were waiting for good reptile stuff.
Okay,
and then
interesting.
Konami announced they're reprinting it already.
That is awesome. So, hang on, I'm going to look that up so the audience can see that. So I hope I spelled it right. Literally just Snake Rain. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. That looks old. Okay, so so discard 1 card, select 5 reptile monsters from your deck. Oh, well, that actually isn't bad at all then. Yeah, because you could discard 1, and then you could then send 4 others that are going to be different reptile names. Yeah, that actually could work pretty well. Ooh, so thinking about that now, will that lead to synergy with the boss monster?
Oh, 100% it can. Literally, you can send 1-ofs with this, and yeah, I mean,
yeah, because
you don't need it. But
you could special. It doesn't specify which one you have to. It says just special summon 1 reptile monster, and there's no clause looking at the deity of the abyss here. Yeah, that's actually not bad. I mean, I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah, so that's the general idea. They literally took a deck, that could use Snake Rain, and they're like, well, if we're making Snake Rain good, let's make it Snake themed again. And I wanted to let you know the second spell here isn't Abyss, it's actually the last Earth Arctic spell, because we didn't get to discuss this back when we did the Earth Arctic video.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Not bad at all here. Looking at, oh, I don't think does this one go with this one? I don't think this goes with this deck.
No,
yeah,
no.
that's
Yeah.
what Grant was saying.
Okay.
I just put it here.
Yeah.
I put it here because it was the last. It was just kind of awkward to fit it somewhere as a one of, because we already discussed Earth Arctic. This was just a spell that they revealed after we did that video, so I figured we'd put it in here.
No, that makes sense. And the way this one works, though, if you're playing that deck, you discard one, add two Yarsic monsters from your deck to your hand. If you attribute a monster or monsters to activate how do you say this again, guys?
Earth Arctic.
Like Ursa and Arctic.
Eusarctic monsters effect. You can banish this card from your graveyard instead. You cannot use this effect during the turn this card was sent to the grave. Okay, interesting. Very interesting. All right, now, moving on to the Pendulum deck now. For those of you who were with us the last time we did our Yu-Gi-Oh! News you might have missed, we were not too sure about how good this Pendulum deck would be because we saw potential, but we weren't sure if it was enough. And then Grunt started to look at the field spell in particular, and I want to start with that. Okay, so Grunt, the way the field spell reads here, is it, how do I say these? Is it Do Re Mi chord?
Do Re Mi chord.
Do Re Mi chord.
Like,
okay.
Yeah, have you ever taken like a choir in school or band?
I have.
And they
sing it. Class in general.
Yeah. Do re mi fa sol la
okay,
ti
so do re. So is it Do Re Mi chord? Am I saying that right?
Do
then?
Re Mi.
Do Re Mi.
Do Re Mi.
Do Re Mi chord. Okay, so it says here,
Yes.
add one Do Re Mi chord pendulum monster from your face-up extra deck to your hand. Have one Do Re Mi chord in your pendulum zone. Gain pendulum scales equal to its level until the end of this turn. And if you control 3 or more Do Re Mi chord pendulum monster cards with different names that have odd pendulum scales or that have even number pendulum scales, you can destroy one card your opponent controls. Now, Grunt, looking at it, says select and activate one of these effects. You can only select these effects of Do Re Mi chord Harmonia once per turn each. So why is the field spell so good for this deck?
Well, because when we first read this, I was under the impression, and it's how it's worded, because I haven't seen a card like that was worded this way in a while. So even though it says it's the first effect, unless it's the inflation, this is implying that it's not a hard once per turn on the field spell, but what's hard once per turn is that you can only use each of the effects once per turn. So you can activate, from what I'm understanding, someone can correct me in the comments, you can activate all 3 of these effects in the same turn.
Yes, you can.
Even if you switch them out, you can't select the same one twice. So essentially, you can add one from your extra deck to your hand at any time during your turn. You can have one change its scale whenever you want during your turn. And then you get a free pop, too. So you're able to facilitate your pendulum summons. You're able to recur from the extra deck, so you're not relying as much on links, which is funny because they have a link now. And,
yes, they do. I saw that. Yeah, someone just pointed that out in our chat. And we do have that coming up, guys, when we talk about the booster set that we're going to discuss. But yeah, go ahead, Grant.
So the field spell does a lot. I don't think it's like 100% necessary. It's not like the training wheels of the deck, but it gives you a lot of nice effects when you consider that we don't have Electromite back, and I think this gives the deck a little more potential. I feel like this is less of a pack filler set when you can consider how some of these effects work.
Yeah, and that was something that we had talked about last time. We were looking at the pendulum scales, noticing that literally you have them go from 1 and then they go all the way up to 8. And so we were like, man, that's really funky. How is this going to properly work? And then when we saw the field spell, then it made so much more sense. But go ahead, Carlos.
It's also that their pendulum scales and their levels always equal up to 9,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Which
which is
is
important for the field spell.
yes. And it's really interesting the way that it works. I think it's unique. I like it. The more that I've looked at it, the more I think actually this could be a lot of fun to play test and just try. So,
Hmm.
looking at the first one that we've got here, the pendulum effect, and a few of them have this, where it says your Doremi chord pendulum monsters, pendulum summons cannot be negated. That's
Yep.
awesome. The fact that you can't, hit it with some sort of bottomless or something, that's pretty cool. But then if we take a look at the monster effect, if this card is normal or special summoned, add one Doremi Chord Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand, except Doremi Chord Cutia. If you have an even number pendulum scale in your pendulum zone, Doremi Chord Pendulum monsters you control gain 100 attack times their pendulum scale total that you control. And then the second one here, Dremia, it says you can only use this card's first monster effect once per turn. If there is a Doremi Chord card in your Pendulum Zone, you can special summon this card from your hand. And that's nice for just, having some sort of extension. If you
I
have
actually
an.
do want to talk about this.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
actually like these got a lot better. I'm gonna
Yes,
say
they
that
did.
now.
If you, yes, especially from the first time we talked about them back in February.
Yes.
If you have an odd number pendulum scale in your pendulum zone and a Doremi Chord pendulum monster card you control would be destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can destroy this card instead of one or those cards. So,
Hmm.
Grunt, go ahead and expand. What's so great about it?
So people are probably thinking to themselves, "What's this? A level 1 monster in a pendulum deck? What is this?" Now, the thing that I like about Cutea is that, in my opinion, if you have her in your hand, she is almost always going to be your go-to normal summon because you're never going to pendulum summon her.
Mm-hmm.
And for this reason, too, if you have the field spell and you haven't used her effect that turn, in my opinion, she is almost always the best one to, take from your extra deck, put back to your hand. Because if your normal summon is good, you get another search with her, and instead of recovering a piece you already have in your extra deck, you can gain advantage off of returning her to your hand. So that's
Mm-hmm.
good. And I remember when we first discussed these, we looked at Dremea here, or Dreamia, and we're like, why is she special summoning herself? It doesn't seem really, like it has a point in a pendulum deck,
Mm-hmm.
but it makes a lot of sense now because what you can literally do in this deck is summon Cutea, search Dremea, special summon her, and then you have your two monsters to go into your Link 2,
Yes. Yes.
and then you can pendulum. So, like, an extender in a pendulum deck makes a lot more sense now that we have an archetypal Link monster with them.
Yes, and we will get to that link monster, guys. Carlos, do you see that now as well? Do you feel like there's much more potential than what we probably thought of when we were first reviewing?
Absolutely, I think this deck's much better. It's probably the deck I'm most excited about Ancient
Mm-hmm.
Guardians
Me too.
for, to be honest. And if I was to get a booster box of Ancient Guardians, I'd be hoping to pull some of this the Do Re Mi chord stuff. Something I did want to point out: Cutia is on normal or special summon, so this is a one
Mm.
for one target.
Mm-hmm.
So you can
Yes, it
one for
is.
one it out,
Yeah,
get a
100%.
search, and then do the Dreamia play with that. So it's really good.
that is good.
Um, and yeah, I'm really liking the way this deck has kind of shaped out. It's been the one out of Ancient Guardians that has kind of had the best impression on me. Like at first, I was like, okay, they have cool artwork and stuff, but like, what is really the end goal? They didn't really have an end goal. Now at least they kind of have an end goal. You have the boss monster in the main deck, the level I think it's a level 8, right? Or is it
Yeah.
level 9? It's level 8.
Yeah, the level 8.
So
Yeah.
you have the level 8 boss monster, and then you have the Link 2, and then you have the which is good because then you can go into it. Theoretically speaking, you're using two monsters to special summon that, so you can at least go into that. Then that gives you options. Like you can go into the Link 4s, you can go into like Appaloosa, you can go into
Mm-hmm.
like since Pendulum monsters are special summon from the extra deck, are treated like they're special summon from the extra deck. You can go into something like crap. What's that one? The Link 4 Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax. You can go into
Oh yeah.
Avermax. You can go into some pretty cool stuff now. You know, it's
Yeah.
not just like, hey, what's the point of this deck besides just pendulum summoning? Now it's like, okay, there's some kind of cool synergy here.
Let's talk about the boss monster since you had brought her up. So the way that she works here, when you pendulum summon this is this pendulum effect. Doremi Chord pendulum monster or monsters, your opponent cannot activate monster effects or spell or trap cards. That's really good. And then looking at the 1 and 2 effects here, you can special summon this card from your hand by tributing 2 pendulum monsters. You can, and which is actually pretty good because it's counted as a special, guys. And if you've got the link out, you can still bring those targets back. Because, like Grunt said, you want to have the level 1 be your normal. You can target one face-up card your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of your opponent's turn. If you have an odd number pendulum scale in your pendulum zone, you can target 2 cards instead. When the effect of a monster on the field with attack less than or equal to 300 times the highest pendulum scale in your pendulum zone is activated, quick effect, you can destroy that monster. That is a loaded card. I can't imagine how hard it's going to be to read the text on that when you're live dueling. Carlos, I know when we first talked about this, we were worried about would people be able to easily get this out. It looks like they will be able to. Do you think that this card is going to just be abusable?
So one of the big things I hated about this archetype was originally I was like, okay, you're required to special summon 2 pendulum monsters to bring this one out.
Right.
Well, you couldn't even pendulum summon it because it's level 8 and the highest scale that this deck had was 8. But the field spell kind of fixed that problem because now any pendulum you target, it's going to become scale 9.
Yes.
So suddenly, if you have like a 1 and like you could literally say you have like. Well, you don't even need a 1. You could literally have like any of the pendulum scales besides the 8.
Besides 8, yeah.
2 8. You could have that one, and then the any random level, and then you can activate the field spell and make the whatever pendulum you want to be scale 9, and then you can special summon this. So it's definitely really cool. I also like the fact that it destroys a monster quick effect. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very good.
And then, so it says when the effect of a monster on the field with attack less than or equal to 300 times the highest pendulum scale in your pendulum zone is activated. So, we'd be at like 9 times 300. So anything less than 2,700, you should be able to destroy.
You should be able to hit. Yep.
Pretty good. Like it's like say your opponent goes into Halki Fibrex, you're not going to be able to negate the Halki Fibrex, but at least you'll be able to destroy it so that they couldn't combo off further.
Yeah, that's pretty good. What's interesting to me as well is that when I look at the first effect, that's not a hard once per turn. So yeah, I believe there's something with the field spell that allows you to add cards back to the hand. So if you're able to then special this more than once, that's pretty good. So then you have that interaction ready to go on the next turn. So it's a pretty good card. I'm very impressed with it the more I've thought about the archetype. Grunt, do you see any drawbacks to the card? Where do you think there might be issues?
It's funny. I don't see any real drawbacks. And I know people are going to be like, but it asks for 2 tributes. Well, the irony is that, in my opinion, this is going to be a deck that it's not going to 100% live or die by its field spell, but it's really going to love the field spell because it's ironic. Because, again, you're never going to be able to pendulum summon the level 1, but because all of these monsters have varying scales from 1 to 8, as long as you have the field spell open, this girl plus 2 pendulums in your scale is going to be live because you can make the 1, any of them a 9, and anything that's less than 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, or whatever is going to be a big enough gap to allow you to pendulum summon her. So honestly, her special summoning clause isn't
right.
It's kind of there. It's not even needed.
It's not even needed. It's just there in case you need to somehow do it. Yeah. It's
She's
very
ironically the most accessible, which is a big deal.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, again, this is so different than the first time we reviewed this. So the first time we looked at this, we were so frustrated. It's like, darn it, you have to pendulum summon and then you get it out. There's multiple ways to bring out the card now. So and we thought you had to pendulum summon 2 monsters and then tribute to get this card out. Now you don't have to do that. So it just shows how accessible the boss monster is, which is what we feel pendulum or any engine should do. Is they should have a very accessible boss monster, and it's nice to see that this card does that. Looking at some of the other cards in here, are there any other standouts to you guys that you feel like we should discuss?
So I will say real quick that a lot of the other ones here have varying usability. I mean, the level 3, I
Yes.
mean, it's kind of cute. It's like, oh, bounce, spell, or trap. So she exists as a body. Like the
Mm-hmm.
3, you could definitely not run at 3. She isn't needed. Having a 6 scale is kind of awkward. So she's probably run like you could run 1 or 2 of her at most.
Mm-hmm.
The level 4, she's okay. I mean, she essentially gives you extra summoning material, which I think is a good thing. If you don't have a Cutea, what you could always do is normal summon her, and then at least you can add to your extra deck.
Yeah.
So like the 4, you could run probably 2 of, like maybe not 3, but still she's more usable than the 3. I know the 5, the level 5 is very good
Mm-hmm.
because she searches a spell or trap, I believe.
Yeah,
Which I mean, hey, she
when the
searches your
card's
kill
normal
zone.
or special, yes. And her pendulum effect is pretty interesting too. When you pendulum summon a Doremi Cord pendulum monster or monsters, your opponent cannot activate the monster effect, spell, or traps. Yeah, she's pretty good.
So the neat thing to know is that the levels 1 through 4 all protect your summon from being negated, and the
Mm-hmm.
5 through 8 all have this shared pendulum effect where your opponent cannot activate effects. So the idea is you'll have one of the 5 through 8, and then you'll have one of the 1 through 4, ideally, with a decent range on them to try and set up a decent protection on your
Yeah,
pendulum summon. So that's the idea with them.
yeah.
The 6 here is trying to actually read what the 6 says here.
It
Contribute
says
1.
monster. So it says here during your main phase, you contribute 1 Cord Pendulum monster, and if you do, special summon 1 Cord Pendulum monster with a pendulum scale that is 2 higher or lower than the tributed monster from your deck. Yeah, that's
That's
pretty
pretty good
good.
because
Yeah.
That
you
is
can
pretty
special
good.
summon the boss monster.
Yep,
You could
exactly. That's
literally
what I was just
you could
thinking.
lone fire the level 6 to summon the level 8. That is
Yeah,
pretty good.
that is really good. And if you have an odd number pendulum skill in your pendulum zone and your Doremi Cord pendulum monster attacks, your opponent cannot activate spell or trap cards or their effects until the end of the damage step. And I think
Or
the other one has that too, like that with
let's
the
see.
attacking.
So another one is you could pendulum summon her, and assuming you have the level 2, special summon the level 2, tribute the level 2, who's a scale of 6. Or
Uh
no, wait,
huh.
she's a 7. Never mind, never mind. I'm numbers mixed. So I was gonna
Oh,
say
that's okay.
tribute the 2 for the 5 and search, but no, it'd have to be the 3.
But still, that works. It's so we've got 3 ways now to bring out that boss monster. That's fantastic. If you can find multiple ways to bring out a card, that leads to lots of creativity, and I am all for that. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
Carlos, what are your thoughts on that card? Do you think that's
The
going to definitely be a 3 of?
a 6 and specifically.
Yeah, because it's also a scale 3, which is pretty solid.
Yeah, I do definitely like it. Like the fact that you can basically lone fire out your boss monster. Also, let's not forget you can also tribute any other Doremi to special summon like um any 2 or higher.
Mm-hmm.
So it works depending on like basically what I'm trying to say is it gives you access to your situational cards depending on which one you have out already. Like so
I
you what?
I guess
What were you
the one thing I wanted to add real quick. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Is that the one downside I see between these two is they both have good applications. The issue is that being 5 and 6 means that you're probably going to already pendulum summon that turn. So while they do set things up, it seems like you might not be able to pendulum summon again that turn after using Fortunal.
Yeah, but I still think that's okay because that's what the pendulum summon is for, is getting things set up so you can make your plays from there. Because whenever I'm playing a pendulum build, that's the last resort now. Is okay, now I pendulum, and now I've got all my resources ready, and then I start building or continue to build from there what I need to dismantle somebody's board. So I think that's okay, and I think for a deck this is a great start. So especially if it catches fire, which I would like to see, because man, I know that Konami doesn't really like the pendulum cards, I don't think, but I do. I think they're fun. I think they're easy to teach other people. And it's nice to see something with this kind of potential. Um, moving on to Butea here. It says here that she's a quick effect. You can target one effect monster your opponent controls during this turn. If that card would leave the field, it's banished. That's pretty good if you're talking about decks that rely on Graves reliance quite a bit. If you have an even number pendulum scale in your pendulum zone, you can target one face up spell or trap your opponent controls instead. Once per turn, at the start of the damage step, again, when this card battles with an attack that's higher, you can destroy that monster if it's got a certain level, times 300 with the scale. So it looks like they've all got that second effect going for them, those main monsters that were in the middle. What do you think about the quick effect there, Carlos? Do you like it?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely do like it. Depending on like what your opponent is playing, if they need if you know what they're playing and they need a specific combo piece to be in their graveyard and it hits the board first, you can completely like basically stop their turn if you can hit the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Absolutely.
to me, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking a cyber dragon for some reason. I'm thinking if you can banish something that they need to start with their extending, boy, that could really, really be effective. Grunt, what about you? What are your thoughts?
I think that this is another decent option. Again,
Mm-hmm.
it's not probably the best thing ever, but it is a decent sized body, and the fact that
Yeah.
you can target a monster your opponent controls, and then, I mean, leaving the field, you could simply just, target a monster, tribute this with your level 6 if you have it out, lone fire something, get the banish off, because this would actually let you go into the 5 for a search, because,
Mm-hmm.
2 to 4. And then you'd have this back during next turn from a pendulum summon if you have the scales right. So, and again, being a level 7, it's pretty accessible with the field spell because, any of your scales that's not 7 or 8 plus the 9, you're going to be able to summon this. So, again, it's a weird gimmick with the deck having all the different scales, but it works for the higher leveled ones, which are more accessible.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be pretty good. Let's go ahead and look at the last one here, or at least for this part, yeah, because there's other cards here. So, Doremi Chord Scale, you can activate one card with this card's name per turn. So it says here if you have, so it says apply these effects in sequence according to the number of Doremi Chord Pendulum monster cards you control with different names. If you have 3 or more, return one card from your pendulum zone to the hand, and if you do, place one Doremi Chord Pendulum monster from your face-up extra deck to your pendulum zone. 5 or more, special summon one Doremi Chord Pendulum monster from your hand. 7 or more, destroy all face-up cards your opponent controls. Oh, that is interesting. Okay, so wait, I'm reading that card again according to the number of you control. So does that also mean they're counting the pendulum scale?
Yes, yes, they are.
Oh, okay. So if they're also counting the pendulum scale, that's interesting. So 7 or more, you get to destroy all face-up cards your opponent controls. That's pretty interesting. Grunt, have you seen builds abuse this yet?
I'm sure you can make a build that tries to do this consistently, but
Uh-huh.
if you're trying to do the 7 or more effect, to me this is just kind of another version of the abyss trap where you need 8 or more abysses
Yeah,
with different
sounds tough.
names.
Yeah.
It's still good. It's still good because the 3 or more effect, you're literally gaining advantage because
Yes.
you're getting a monster back to your hand from the pendulum zone, and you're getting a free pendulum monster from your extra deck to your Pendulum Zone. I don't know if you want to run this at 3 though, because this seems like it's more of a recovery card than it is a starter.
Yeah, I could
On
see
the
that.
5 or more.
Carlos, could
On
you see it being cloggy if you used it at 3?
For sure, it'd be a little bit cloggy. I'd maybe run it as a 1 of or a 2
Yeah.
of.
I would run it as a 1 of because you can search it with the level 5 when you want it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense to me. I could definitely see that. Obviously, the filled spell would be a definite 3. I would be thinking because it just gets you going so well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the trap here, and then we'll also look at elegance. So we have Musica. It's a trap. It says select one of these effects to activate based on the pendulum scale of the Remy chord pendulum monsters you control. If it's an odd number, special summon one Doremi chord pendulum monster with an odd number pendulum scale from your face up extra deck. If it's even, special summon one Doremi pendulum monster with an even number pendulum scale from your face up extra deck. Both odd and even target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. Then elegance. Place one Doremi chord pendulum monster from your deck in your pendulum zone. Oh, that's really good. Add one Doremi chord pendulum monster from your hand to your extra deck face up. Then place two Doremi chord pendulum monsters, one with an even scale and one with an odd scale, from your deck in your pendulum zone. Wow. And then add one card with an even scale and one with an odd scale from your pendulum zone to the extra deck face up. And if you do, draw 2 cards. Okay, forget the other spell card. This looks awesome. Carlos, what do you think of elegance there? Doesn't that sound incredible?
Give me a sec. Sorry, you were talking so fast.
Okay, look, I'll go through it again. Place one Doremi chord pendulum monster from your deck in your pendulum zone, or add one Doremi chord pendulum monster from your hand to your extra deck face up. Then you can place 2 Doremi chord pendulum monsters, one with an even scale or an odd scale, from your deck to your pendulum zones. Add one card with an even scale and one with an odd scale from your pendulum zone to the extra deck face up. And if you do, you get to draw 2 cards.
This card's broken. I love it.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's so
Free
good.
of at all times, and if you're not, you're running the deck wrong.
Yeah. I absolutely love the way you put that, Grunt.
Well,
hands down.
Let's be honest here. Any pendulum deck, a Morphage would kill to have something like this. This is the card that literally
absolutely.
says, oh, you want a certain scale number? Yeah, let me get that for you. Oh, what's that? You have a ton of pendulums in your hand that you're going to pendulum summon anyways. Add one, set your scales, and then, go to town. And don't forget that if you do both an odd and an even, your summons can't be negated. So unless your opponent is setting stuff like a 2-win twister to stop your pendulum summon, like, there's nothing else that's really going to stop the pendulum summon because, no negates or anything.
Man, that is just amazing. The trap, I mean, it's okay.
It's cute.
Do you guys see
I played as a 1 of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I play a 1 of.
Yeah, I don't think it's awesome, but it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially because you're going to be able to mold your hand so that you are your pendulum zone, so you always have an odd and even. And in that case, this becomes just a form of disruption that's searchable.
Yeah,
it should know it's searchable. That changes things. You go first, you search this, set it, and you have a form of disruption.
Yeah,
you have actually, depending on the combo route you take, you might have 2 or 3 forms of disruption, because you could have the level 8, you could have the level is it the level 7 that banishes when it's sent to the graveyard?
Yes.
You could have the level 7, the level 8, and this if you do the combo route properly. So definitely some potential here. I'm liking it.
Here's the other thing to consider is that like Carlos brings up, especially with elegance here, on your best day, you're going to have both odd and even, so you can activate any 3 of these effects. It's not like you're locked in to one of them. It's just you have a choice. So if you want to summon, you can. If you just want a free pop, which, hey, sometimes a free pop can, save you.
It can change a lot. Yeah, especially like Carlos is saying, it's searchable. And that is what makes this much better. It makes me think of Dogmatica Punishment, how that's a searchable card and it leads to great disruption.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that without a doubt, it's definitely a good card. But I'm not sure that I would run it more than one. I think it might get a little cloggy. I'm not sure though.
I
I'd
would
have
run
to
it at one
experiment with the
because you can
deck.
search it.
Oh,
The
say
nice
it again.
thing is that the nice thing is that people are probably thinking, but if I'm pendulum summoning from the extra deck, doesn't that mean I'm using the extra monster zone? Well, yes, but the other cool thing is that again, if you're running more than one of the level sixes, which you should, you can always lone fire away the one in your extra monster zone and then open that up for another use of this trap or other way of summoning from the extra deck face up. Or, just go to the pendulum or the link. There's a lot of options now to clean up that extra monster zone.
Yeah, and I do like all the recursion. Let's think about some decks that are going to have a hard time with this, because I think there will definitely be some decks that will be able to pick this apart. What about decks that run Dragoon? Are we going to have issues with that? Would this deck have issues with it? Because I'm thinking of the boss card, and
I mean,
I'm trying
in
to
fairness,
think.
a lot of decks have problems with Dragoon.
Yes, yeah.
We can't.
Yeah, there's
like,
not really any non-targeting removal. You're kind of screwed against Yugioh. It would be
Like,
good at stopping Anaconda.
You could totally play things though to like if you're going second with this deck, you could totally play Kaiju's.
Oh, that's a great
100%.
point, Carlos. Yes, Kaiju's would be a definitely good option if you're going second. Yeah, no doubt about it. I agree with that. Or even your infinite impermanence, making sure that you hit the Predaplant card. Yeah, there's definite ways to deal with that card. What about Eldritch though? Would that be very difficult for this deck? And Carlos, I'm asking you specifically. I know you specialize in
Yeah.
it.
He'd have a better idea.
I mean, this deck isn't going to be meta. We're not going into this expecting this deck to be meta. If you're asking me, is this deck just going to have problems overall to become like against meta decks? Well, of course, because it's not meta. It could it win occasionally? Yeah, I suppose it could. I think one of the things I do like about this is if you have an odd and even scale, if you try to normal or special summon, your opponent can't activate the Eldritch trap cards in response to your summon. So that's obviously a really good.
Yeah, so they're going to have to decide when they hit it. That's a great point. Really, really good point. And I do agree with you. It's not going to be meta, but I do think it's a fantastic start. And I would like to see Konami, if they start an archetype, let's make sure that we continue with it so that people don't invest and then don't ever see stuff for years. Let's have consistent support for it, which we will be getting when we get to the booster set we're going to be talking about.
You could play Dragoon in this too, to be honest. Like,
that's true. Yeah.
Like, because you could like say you're doing the 1 and 2 combo, right? Normal summon the QT special summon the QT special or at the level 2, set it in the pendulum scale, special summon it. Then you could go into the link 2
Anaconda.
No, well, yeah, you could go and rotate from there, but you could also go I'm trying to get the most advantages possible. You could go into the link 2 Do Re Mi chord pendulum monster. Then if you had an extender pendulum scale, then you could pendulum out the 2 that you just pendulum. Then you could go into Vertex. Then you could go into Dragoon, and then you got some pretty good stuff.
Yeah,
there.
that would be pretty good. Yeah.
Especially if in the combo you search out the trap card, so you'd have like a Dragoon negate, and then you'd have a pop with the trap. It's not obviously not the craziest combo, but that's still pretty good.
That's
deck.
2 forms of interruption. That's not bad. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and move on to Diviner of the Herald here. I'm excited about this because really I'm looking forward to playing this deck. I think it's going to be fun. So if this card is normal or special summoned, you can send 1 fairy monster from your deck or your extra deck to the graveyard. And if you do, increase the level of this card by that monster's level until the end of this turn. Now, what I love about that first effect, I think of Herald of the Arclight immediately.
Yep.
And that's just going to give you so much advantage. And then if this card is tributed, you can special summon 1 level 2 or lower fairy monster from your hand or deck. except Diviner of the Heralds. I mean, wow, what a card.
Drytron's
So
really happy right now, I'll tell you that much.
oh,
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, Grunt, I know
Drytrons are
you've
having a
been
field
playing
day.
Drytron and other builds.
Uh,
So what do you think about this card?
I love it.
well, I love this too. I'm just gonna say, with Ben 10 at 1, this is what the deck needs to get back on its feet, especially now that we're getting the Xyz. Dryton's been gone for a couple months, but once the Lightning Overdrive comes out, there's going to be a very rude awakening for everyone who's been stomping on him.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's really good. So much advantage with just one card. Like you said, it's exactly what the deck needed. So I'm excited about it. Okay, we're going to move on to Dawn of Majesty, the booster box that we'll be getting in August. The OCG is supposed to get it next week. So I'm sure that they're excited. There's quite a bit here to discuss. Some of this we have already discussed a little bit. But we're going to start with the level 9 Synchro here. Each time another monster's effect is activated while this card has less than 4,000 attack, this card gains 300 attack. Once per turn, if this card's attack is 4,000 or more, quick effect, you can shuffle this card and all monsters your opponent controls into the deck. I have not experimented with this card at all. Carlos or Grunt, have either of you messed around with this? Have you seen anybody messing around with it? Anything like that?
Not yet, but I'm under the impression that a lot of people are sleeping on this, and I understand it's negatable. It can do this, you can stop it with that, and I know people are comparing this to Zeus, but compared to Zeus, I just feel like there is potential for this. I mean, Virtual World likes level 9 stuff. I'm not saying they're always going to summon this, but 5 monster activations is really not as much as people think it is. You activate your own monster effects in the graveyard or something, or your opponent activates a hand trap. And again, this doesn't shuffle your own field; it shuffles all your
their
opponent's
field,
monsters,
yes.
which is the best type of. It's the best type of removal you can ask for. They're not destroyed. They're not back in the hand.
Yeah.
That's a complete neg for your opponent. It's
well,
not gonna.
Yes.
Like this can win games. I'm not saying it's gonna be broken. I'm just saying like people are gonna sleep on this, and there's gonna be a deck that consistently summons it at some point, and then people will hate it.
Yes, I agree with that completely. And the reason why, you're talking 5 activated effects need to happen for this thing to hit the 4,000 or more. That is not that difficult to do. And I'm pretty sure you could even maybe have some extending that you do on your turn, and then you just need a few for your opponents. I mean, that's not bad. I think it's a pretty decent card. Carlos, your thoughts?
Yeah, I read this completely wrong the first time. I read it. I thought it was 5 opponent effects, and I was like, oh man, that kind of sucks. But then as I read it, I was like, wow, you could actually make this kind of early on in your virtual world combo, and then you can kind of like go off from here. It's definitely really cool. I like it. It's definitely susceptible to some like kind of stuff. For instance, it has 0 attack, so you'd have to put it into defense position. The thing that sucks about that is if you put an attack, yeah, that's what, or 0 defense. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. Like you have to put into attack position, which makes it susceptible to stuff like lightning storm. That obviously sucks. And then if you put in defense position and try to play around lightning storm, your opponent can just normal summon, and then hit over it. It's also susceptible to stuff like dark ruler no more. It's susceptible to stuff like kaiju's. It's not perfect by any means, but it's definitely a really good utility card. And I obviously virtual world would prefer to have True King, but as a kind of replacement, this is not a bad consolation prize. This is definitely pretty cool. And like Grunt said, the fact that it shuffles all your opponent's stuff into their deck, like, that is broken. If you get that off, you're just living the best life if you get that effect off.
Absolutely, completely agree, guys.
If you're going first with this, sure, kaiju's, but if you're building a board behind this guy to try and protect him, protect the castle, you get this off, suddenly it's like, scoop, game 2.
Yeah, right, because if they shuffle everything back in, that's really difficult to deal with. Especially if they've just waiting for you to hit all your main combo pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So now moving on here, I can't even believe that Konami did this. We have a suship, which is sushi food type archetype. I can't believe this is here. So first of all, I do say I appreciate whenever they have a normal monster and they actually have a lot of card text. I do like that. I think that's a missed opportunity at times when they just put things like on like the Mech Knight guy. Check
Check
this out.
this out.
Yeah, I mean, I thought what a waste when they could have had some lore that they put in there that would have been interesting to read. But I know nothing about this archetype. So, Grunner, Carlos, which of you feels very comfortable with these cards? I don't know anything about them.
So I've read them. I mean, they're kind of cute. Like a lot of people like sushi, and a lot of people like Yugioh.
Uh huh.
So it's good for those kind of people.
Uh-huh.
The deck's definitely not going to be meta, but it's
Not
really
yet.
it's really no. Trust me, it's definitely not going to be meta. But
Could be. You never know.
yes, I'm gonna kill you with my sushi roll, bro.
Oh, come on. You're making that sound crazy when people got killed
Man,
by people in fursuits.
it's a normal monster, man. You're gonna have to have a deck completely broken to work with the normal monster, and I just think their Xyz isn't doing that. You know, like it's fine. But if you're playing the deck as a pure deck, it's not going to be meta. It's going to be cool, though. I'm not saying it's not cool. It's just not going to be meta.
Okay.
I guess what I'm just saying is it looks like Konami's setting him up for future support, and I'm just saying this now. I'm not saying it'll be meta. I'm just saying if Konami wants sushi to be meta, they will make sushi meta.
Yeah, but I really doubt they don't.
Anyways, there is truth to that.
Let's talk about the deck. So level 4 normal monster fire, Aqua, which is a really interesting weird typing. You can special summon this with a card like Unexpected Die, so that's really good.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much all there is to say about that. Also, you can Rescue Rabbit this out, so that's pretty nice.
Yeah. I thought of Rescue Rabbit. Yeah, that gets you, but then you have to commit. Is Rescue Rabbit on your normal summon? I want to say.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so
well, actually, it's an activated effect. You would basically have to get Rescue Rabbit. You'd have to normal summon Rescue Rabbit without them having like a Solemn Judgment or Solemn Strike. Then you would have to activate it, and then it's that at that point it's susceptible to Ash. So there's a lot of points they could stop Rescue Rabbit, but it's still a good card effect.
Yeah.
And then there's Row Sunship, which is the level 4 Aqua Fire effect monster. You can only special summon this card once. You can only special summon the way of this card's name effect once per turn. That's worded weirdly.
It is.
You can only use this card's name second effect once per turn. If you control a Rice Sunship, you can special summon this card from your hand. So extender, that's pretty cool. During your main phase, you can excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you do add to your hand or special summon one of the excavated Rice Sunships, also shuffle the rest back into your deck. So it's really cool.
So it gets out the normal monster if it's taken out like that. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
And spoiler alert, there is a way for you to stack your deck.
Oh, see that's actually not bad then. Interesting. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the Suship Gallery Kaisen, the spell card here. Once per turn, if you normal or special summon a Suship monster or monsters, even during the damage step, you can place one Suship card from your deck on top of your deck. Ooh, is that it, Grunt? Is that the stacking you're talking about?
If you don't open Rice in Row, you normal summon Row, put Rice on top, activate Row, summon Rice, and then you have your 2 level 4s for the Xyz.
Nice. And then it says, once per turn, if your Suship monster or monsters or special summon from the extra deck is sent to the grave by an opponent's card, your opponent must pay life points equal to its defense. Then you can special one Rice Suship from your hand, and if you do immediately after this effect, Xyz summon one Suship Xyz monster using only that monster as the material. Well, that's nice that you can at least go back into the card. And then looking at the Xyz monster they have here, if this card is Xyz summon, you can apply these effects based on the monsters used as material. Rice Suship, draw 1 card. Row Suship, this card can make a second attack during each battle phase. With being 2200 though, that's not very good. Once per turn, when your Suship monster special summoned from the extra deck inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target 1 card they control and destroy it. Oh, please tell me this isn't the boss monster, guys. Is this the boss monster of the deck?
It's the
Yes.
current boss
Oh
monster. I say that.
god.
Look, I'm just saying this now. It's a sushi-based archetype. It gives me Cardian vibes. I feel like Konami's gonna keep making support for it as long as they can.
No, and I get that. It's just, yeah, I'm not seeing this doing a whole lot, especially with those stats of 2200. Wow. Okay, I mean, they're at least supporting it, so that's a good thing. And then oh wait, we have that twice. It looks like, yeah, we got that slide twice. But oh my goodness, so that's interesting. All right, moving on now. Is this Maggie Key
Oh,
or wait?
what? That shouldn't. There was a trap I was supposed to put there. That's weird.
Oh, that's okay. It
So
happens.
this is actually the archetype that I'm most excited about for Dawn of Majesty.
Oh,
Okay, how does it
yeah.
work?
If you want to talk about Magic Key, feel free.
Magic
Okay,
Key.
so-
Okay.
So it's a normal archetype. Well, it has a normal. So the theme of Dawn of Majesty is normal monsters, right?
Mhm.
So this one revolves around this normal monster, Magic Key Skyblaster Calvis, and it's a ritual monster that has ritual tuner monsters, which is the first of their
Oh.
kind for Yu-Gi-Oh, which is
Nice
really
one,
interesting.
Zappy.
That is very interesting. Yes.
So let's talk about it. So first of all, level 4 normal dark warrior monster. That's probably the best typing in the game.
Yeah.
You can search for reinforcement of the army. You can special summon with unexpected die. You can also special summon with rescue rabbit. So
Yeah.
all the things we talked about last time, plus it's searchable via Rhoda.
Yeah.
Also, since the deck is has a lot of dark, you can also play a Lore of Darkness in it. So
Mhm.
off the top of the bat, you're looking at really good generic stable cards that you can
Yes,
run
you
from
are.
the
Like advanced ritual art will work for the ritual monster here, probably.
Then you can play. So let's talk about the ritual. It's a dark machine ritual tuner effect monster. You can only ritual summon this card once per turn. You can ritual summon this card with Magic Key, Mathtea or Math. How do you pronounce it?
Sounds good to me.
I think that's
Mathtea.
Maftea, yeah.
I know
Yeah,
Fusion
okay.
YGO. It's tough for me though, man. All right,
It's just-
anyways,
you
go
can
ahead.
You can only use this card's one effect once per turn. If this card's ritual summon, you can add one Magic Key card from your deck to your hand, so that's good.
Oh, that's
And then
really
once per
good.
turn, when an attack is declared involving this card and an opponent's monster with the same attribute as a normal monster or Magic Key in your graveyard, you can place any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck. And if you do negate that opponent's monster effect until the end of the turn, then draw
Ooh.
cards equal to the number of cards placed. So monster negation, you can reshuffle, resculpture your hand. But the thing to note about this one is it's a level 4 ritual tuner.
Wow,
It's
that's
important
amazing.
that it's a tuner. They have not revealed their synchro monster yet, but just based on the artwork of the field spell, it's very clear that they're also going to get they're going to get a ritual, they're going to get a synchro, they're going to get an Xyz, and they're going to get a fusion.
Oh,
So
I
this
love
deck's
it.
going to be able to.
Well, actually, spoiler alert, they already have a fusion.
Oh, do
Well,
they?
yeah, we'll probably talk about
Yeah,
it.
they do.
later,
Yeah, we have that in here. So
okay,
let's look at
go
this.
to the next.
So the Magic Key Cannon is the next one here, and it says you gain 300 attack for each monster attribute in your graveyard. When your opponent activates the effect of a monster with the same attribute as a monster in your graveyard, and you control this card ritual summoned using monsters with 2 or more attributes quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster. If this ritual summon card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Magic Key monster from your deck to your hand. And now going to Magic Key Summon Beast, the Fusion, you can use the 1 effect of this card's name once per turn. If this card is Fusion Summon, you can add 1 Magic Key Magtech or Mathtea, yeah, there we go, from your graveyard to your hand. Once per turn, you can target 1 opponent's attack position monster with the same attribute as a normal monster or Magic Key monster in your graveyard. Change it to defense position, and if you do, it loses 1,000 defense. This third effect's interesting. Banish any monster destroyed by battle with this card. Okay, so thoughts on this one? Okay, so Carlos, I'll start with you. What are thoughts on either one, Cannon or Summon Beast?
So cannon is going to be one of the monsters you're working towards building towards.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be an end piece. Summon beast is actually one of the combo pieces you're going to be using. You're going to be doing a lot of you're basically going to be doing a lot of ritual summon, a lot of special summoning. Then you're going to be doing more ritual summoning. This deck's a real heavy combo deck.
Yes, it
So
is.
that's all I have to say so far about it. This is just another combo piece to play in the deck, and you like it. You also like the fact that it's a fusion tuner, so you're gonna have access to it. You're gonna have access to it. Pretty much, you're gonna have access to your tuner anytime you want.
Oh, that's
Also,
good.
the fact that it's a level 4, you can play instant fusion in this deck.
Oh,
Obviously, that's a one of, so it's not the most convenient, but that's totally a combo
that's
piece you can
still
play.
good
So
though. Yes. Yeah, I like it. Interesting. So are they all level fours? Is that what eventually
No.
happens? So it's
So
just the fusion and the ritual.
So from what so here's my opinion so far on how this is gonna work. So I'd have to read Maftea. I feel like
you,
Maftea only works on the rituals and fusions, but the current theme is that we have 2 rituals, 2 fusions, and there's a 4 and an 8, but for both of the types respectively. So we've got a level 4 fusion, level 8 fusion, level 4 ritual, level 8 ritual. Both the level 4 extra deck slash ritual fusion monsters are tuners.
Mm-hmm.
So we might have multiple synchros. Obviously, there's Xyz that we'll probably get. This is a deck that's gonna keep getting support. I can't wait to see what they do with it because I really do like the aesthetic of it.
Well, let's go ahead and look at some of the support cards we know that we have at the moment. So, looking at the field spell here, Magic Key Unsealing. When this card resolves, you can add one Magic Key monster from your deck to your hand. Love that right away. Any field spell that starts the combo for the archetype, I'm all for. The first time each normal monster you control would be destroyed by battle or a card effect each turn except tokens. It is not destroyed. I like that too. During your main phase, you can add one Magic Key Maftea from your deck to your hand, then place one card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. And that goes along with that stacking ability with that other card. Now, Magic Key Maftea, fusion summon one Magic Key fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand, your hand or field as fusion material, or ritual summon. Oh, that's neat. I like that. Or
Yep.
ritual summon one Magic Key ritual monster from your hand by attributing monsters from your hand or field whose total levels equal or exceed the level of the ritual monster. If you control a normal monster, you can also send one normal monster from your deck to the graveyard as fusion material or as one of the monsters required for the ritual summon. This is amazing, this normal spell card.
so
Wow.
this is what brings the deck together, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you can activate, say you have these 2 cards in your hand, right? You can activate the field spell, search out the normal, right? Normal summon the normal. You can then activate this, or you would need the ritual card in your hand too. You can then dump another copy of the normal to special summon the ritual. The ritual's effect's going to activate. Then you can go into the fusion, or you can go into the or you have 2 level 4, so now you can go into the level 8 rituals. There's a lot of different avenues
Wow.
that this deck's going to take, and I feel like we haven't quite reached the pinnacle of what this deck's going to be capable of. We totally need to see what the XCs and the fusion is going to do, or not the fusion, the XCs and the synchro is going to do. The reason I am very adamant that there's an XCs and a synchro to be revealed is because when you look at the Magic Key Unsealing, the field spell, there's like different columns, and each column has
Oh,
like a
yeah.
different shade. The first one is purple. That's obviously in reference to the
Fusion.
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 Yeah.
The top middle one is blue. That's in reference to the ritual. And then if you
Ritual.
look at the top
Hmm.
right and the top left, the top right is black, so that's obviously XCs, and the top left is white, so that's the synchro. So I'm pretty positive that they're going to be getting synchros and XCs in the future. And so it's going to add more and more to the combo potential. So I don't want to fully talk about like what this deck's going to be able to do because they haven't received all their
Yeah.
combo pieces yet. But in terms of starting, I really like the start that they gave this deck. I think it's going to be really interesting. And anytime you're playing a deck where you can ritual summon, fusion summon, XC summon, a synchro summon and link summon all in one. Okay, we're playing with house money now because that's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you're doing all these, the crazy thing is you're doing all these summons, and the thing that facilitates it is normal monsters. That
Yeah.
is pretty funny to me, and that is really cool.
Well, and I like the idea of normal summon or normal monsters having a way back into the game. I mean, that's how it started. So I like seeing that. I think that's a good decision on Konami's part. Wow, what a deck here already. I would agree with you. The start of this is just nuts. Looking at the next fusion card here, so we've got Majesty Summon Beast. And it says here, when fusion summoned, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects. That's really good. Once per turn, you can target one normal monster or magic key monster in your graveyard. Destroy all monsters your opponent controls with the same attribute. Wow. Once per turn, if your opponent's monster or monsters with the same attribute as a monster in your graveyard is destroyed by battle or card effect, and you control this fusion summon monster using monsters with 2 or more attributes as material, you get to draw a card. Ooh, pretty good. Connected Magic Key. It's a trap. Target one normal monster or Magic Key monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Then you get to apply one of these other effects. Fusion summon one Magic Key fusion monster from your extra deck in defense using monsters from your hand or field as a fusion material. Ritual summon one Magic Key ritual monster from your hand in defense by tributing monsters from your hand or field whose total levels equal or exceed the level of the ritual monster. Wow. Okay. Grunt, your thoughts on these two cards? What are you thinking?
Well, the first thing I'm thinking of is that there are multiple ways I've already seen people experimenting with this deck. So, either they're going to make more Magic Key normal monsters in the future, or they're expecting you to splash in some of the other normal monsters that already exist. So, Phantom Griffin, Adamantite Dragon,
Mm.
Raisu Ship is a fire normal monster. Like, this gives you attributes that you can work with to kind of do this whole synergy thing. So, while some people see restriction, keep in mind that the Magic Key normal monster himself is already dark, and
Mm.
anyone can tell you dark is easily the
Huge.
most popular
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
or attribute at the moment. So it's like it's got a lot of utility, and I kind of agree with Carlos here. We're only getting a taste of this. Konami probably had a huge plan for this archetype, but instead of filling one set with everything, we're probably going to see a lot more in what's it called? Burst of Destiny, the next set that they're getting in a few months.
And that's fine with me. Anything that starts off well, I can slowly build the pieces for the other stuff. So shout outs to Fusion Yugioh in the chat. He has a video talking about doing that where you buy the core, and because you see the potential, you make sure you get it early. Because I can already tell I'm gonna pick up a playset of all of this because it looks really solid. And then as the new set pieces come out, you go ahead and you just keep purchasing them at the right time. Carlos, what do you think about the trap for interruption? What's your thinking with that? Nope, Carlos, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear
Yeah,
you
we
now.
can hear you.
Okay,
My
sorry.
question was
I
about
said,
sorry, my
I said
question was about the trap. What did you think about it?
yeah. I had a few things I wanted to say. First of all, after I say my piece on the trap, I'm gonna have to head out.
Oh, okay.
But some things I did want to mention. So the trap I really do like because it's a quick effect negation. If you have the level 8 ritual in your hand, you can ritual summon that, and so that becomes on your opponent's turn. So that becomes
yeah.
That becomes some negation. Also, this deck feels a lot like one of those decks that Konami definitely wants to make meta. You can kind of tell beforehand if Konami is going to make a deck meta just because, like, if they give it really broken support off the bat, like, they want to do something with it. So like this feels like Orcus to me, not necessarily in the playstyle, but in the fact that like hey, when they first revealed Orcus, it was like, okay, we're gonna give them Harp Horror. That's kind of broken. We're gonna give them Crystal Skeleton, like our symbol skeleton, like that's pretty broken as well. Galatea, okay, that's kind of cool. And we give them a counter trap, that's kind of cool. And then they all brought it together with the addition of Dingirsu. So like much like
Yeah.
Orcus, they're laying the foundation of a really, really good meta deck. All it's going to take is one broken card
And
because
I was just gonna say
they
it
already
can
have
take
the combo pieces.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Grant, what
it
were
can
you gonna
take.
say?
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to try and trip over my words because I feel bad interrupting. What I was gonna say too is it takes patience. I say that because like Carlos mentions Dingirsu, and we got Dingirsu all right, but keep in mind that we had to wait 2 sets because in Savage Strike we ended up getting Orchestrated Nightmare, and or not, was it Orchestrated Nightmare? I think it was. You know what I'm talking about, the one that lets you get a free pitch.
They got World Wand and Nightmare.
Yeah, so Nightmare kind of gives you another example. And I remember when I first built Orcust, people were looking at me like, what the heck, guys? Why are you playing Orcust? This deck's cool, and I got my orchestrated returns for like $5. And then once Dingirsu got announced, people were like, well, gotta jump on this. This is crazy good value. And I'm like, I played this deck before it was cool. And now everyone's just playing Dingirsu Turbo.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm telling you, this has quite a bit of potential, and I'm pretty excited about it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
moving on here, we have the Despian cards, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one here, you're going to have a Despian monster plus one light monster plus a dark monster. And then it says here, during the main phase quick effect, you can target one fusion, synchro, Xyz, or link in your opponent's graveyard and either banish it or special it to your field. That's pretty good, especially if you could
Yes,
get
it
a
is.
Dragoon. That's quite the card. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can inflict damage to them equal to the destroyed monster's original attack or defense. And then the next one here, Despian Coridius. Again, it takes one Despia monster, one light or dark. And then it says during the main phase quick effect, you can change the attack of all face up monsters currently on the field to 0 except level 8 or higher fusion monsters. That's actually not bad until the end of this
Mm-hmm.
turn. If this face up card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, you can add to your hand or special summon one Despia monster or Fallen of Albaz from your deck. Whoa. Okay, Grunt,
Mm-hmm.
what do you see in terms of potential here with both cards?
So I have heard some people kind of looking at this deck, and I mean, we're kind of looking at the powerhouses here because the main deck, a few of the main deck monsters are kind of lackluster in other people's eyes. I really like the aesthetic of these. They look a lot like corrupted versions of Dogmatica cards.
Yeah,
People
they
have been
do.
playing that out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know, we don't have a picture of it here, but like there was that one Dogmatica card nobody used. That was level 11.
Uh-huh.
And it was a light version. It was like a you know what I'm talking about. It
I
was like the
do.
dragon
Mm-hmm.
statue. It was like a
Yeah.
white version of this one. And Quiritis here, I can't tell you what he's a copy of because we don't know if Fleur de Lis has like that corrupted ritual.
Yeah.
Let's see. It was Nexus, I think. I think it was Dogmatica Nexus.
Nexus. Okay, I'm trying to bring
Yeah,
it up so people can
down
see.
there, it's
There it
under
is. I
Maximus.
see it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think you're right. So now, if we go back to what we were just looking at, yeah, absolutely. You can definitely see the resemblance there.
It even has the same stats and level.
Yes, that's just too interesting. Do you happen to know what the lore is behind that?
So from my understanding, this is gonna be like another example of dual terminal lore, where it's gonna be a lot of people putting on their tinfoil hats and guessing the story, and then Konami will wait until a year or two after they're done with the story to release it. That was kind of the same thing with I don't know if you read it, but like they had the World Legacy Crusadia lore.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the Crawlers and the Mech Knights.
Yeah, and the Mech Knights.
Stories
yep.
pieced together.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell you what the lore is. My best guess is that either these are the true / corrupted forms of the Dogmatica, or there's something else going on, because who knows. All I can tell you is that the main deck monsters remind me of numbers 13 and 31, Crime and Punishment. Mm-hmm. So bonus points to Konami for that.
Yes, and I like that. where I kind of like what Banana Jesus was saying in the chat. It's like the enemies of the Dogmatica cards. So I think that's kind of cool. Looking at some of these cards though, so we have the first one here. It says if a fusion synchro exceeds and or link monster or monsters are special summoned, you can target one effect monster on the field and negate its effects until the end of this turn. Pretty good. If this card is used as a material for a fusion summon from the hand or the field and is sent to the graveyard or is banished, you can special summon it. That's amazing. So if you even use, I'm trying to think of the field spell that allows you to fusion, but it banishes. Fusion Gate, right?
Fusion Gate,
yeah.
Yes.
So that's great. So either way, this sucker's coming back. And
well, not to mention,
and look at its stats. It's a 3,000 beater, and it's a level 8. I mean that's really good. I mean that
you could run this with Shadal's and use it. Now, obviously, you can't pitch it with Shadal Fusion, but assuming you have it in your hand or some way to facilitate it, you could use it as material for Winda, special summon it, and then you have a free negation on top of Winda. And keep in mind that this kind of synergizes with Winda. Your opponent gets one special summon, and then this guy can just shut down the monster they special summon.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a way to make it consistent, but if Shadal's find a way to consistently use this, it's going to be a much appreciated piece of their deck.
Oh, absolutely. And to me, looking at the card, that is just gangbusters busted to me, where you use something for the fusion material, and if it gets to the graveyard, it's coming back. If it's banished, it's coming back. The only way to handle this then would be somehow things get shuffled back in if they're fusioned, which that's probably not going to happen. So this is a really, really great card. Level 8, which is so accessible for the toolbox, and then coming out at the 3,000, just wow. Let's look at Comedy now. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a face-up Despia card or cards you control, quick effect, you can discard this card and negate that effect. That's really good. And if this card is in your graveyard, quick effect, you contribute one fusion monster and special summon it. Okay, so what kind of interactions do you imagine with this card, Grant?
So this is probably one of those cards where I love the appearance and I like the idea, but it seems like they missed an effect or something, because here's the way I see it. It's good, but
yeah,
it's giving you specifically protection for Despia, so
yes.
It's only usable in this archetype. It's not really splashable. And this is a kind of a deck that to me feels more like an engine like Dogmatica versus something you build on its own. If it's in the graveyard, attributing a fusion monster is a very steep cost. The best use I could see for this is, I don't know, maybe you could play it in a lair deck, and if there's a relevant fusion deck out there, you could tribute your opponent's fusion monster to summon this. Yeah. That's not amazing, but it's a use. Comedy's cool. I love his design. I just feel like the cost to summon him back is so steep.
It is steep. Yeah, I thought that too.
There's better ways to facilitate it.
I thought that, so looking at this, you mentioned other engines. So what I was thinking is you might have a lesser fusion monster that, like maybe you used a super poly, you threw this to the grave, and then you made the mud dragon, and then you tribute that out, special this out, so that then you have a way to do interruption again. I don't know. Just it's an interesting card for sure, and I'll be curious to see what players do with it.
Yeah.
Looking at the field spell here, so we've got Stigmatica Theater, and it says during your main phase, you can fusion summon one level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as the fusion material. Wow. If a face-up non-fusion fairy monster or monsters you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field, that's key, by an opponent's card effect, you can target one level 8 or higher fusion monster in your graveyard and you get to special summon it. Then you've got Stigmatica Curtain Rise. Discard one card, then add to your hand or special summon in defense one Despia monster from your deck You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn after this card resolves except for fusion monsters. If a fusion monster or monsters you control would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. Wow, wow, wow. Okay.
Yep.
So this is amazing. You can keep
Yes, it is.
fusioning. I mean, it's a poly that's a field spell, and then it
Yep.
gives you protection. And then Curtain Rise is amazing for getting you going and having protection as well. Your thoughts on this?
So, Banana Jesus, it's the nail on the head. Since this is the Dark Fairy archetype, yes, you can splash us in with Dark Lords, and
Yeah.
the reason why it's fun to do that is because Dark Lords happened to get a fusion monster last year. That's a huge 4K body, and
Yeah.
it's not the easiest to summon. But assuming you do properly fusion summon it now, anytime your Dark Fairy leaves the field, he can just come right on back. And while he's on the field, he makes it so your fairies can't be targeted, and he has the ability to resurrect a fairy by paying 1,000 from your hand or grave. Like, this isn't. Again, Despia is not a deck I would run on its own. This is definitely a deck that can be used as an engine. And being someone who has experimented with Dark Lords in the past, I am looking to test some builds with this because it's Dark Fairy. There's another fairy monster that I was able to add in today for the presentation that works with this. There's so much going on with fairies right now that's
Yes, it's interesting. It's like a big push from Konami. Speaking of some of the other monsters now, so we've got Despian of Tragedy. If this card is sent to the graveyard or banished by a card effect, you can add one Despia monster from your deck to your hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Stigmatica spell trap in your graveyard and set it to your field. Oh my gosh. Okay, so then we've got Albert, Jester of Despia. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one Stigmatica spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. If a face-up fusion monster or monsters you control are destroyed by battle, or leaves the field by an opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls, special summon this card, and if you do, negate the target's effects until the end of this turn. Oh my gosh. This
very fun.
This deck seems stronger than the last one that we were already looking at. Grunt, do you think this is going to be top tier?
It's hard to say. Again, I see this as something that can definitely be used as an engine. Like, you're never going to be building pure Despia, so it's going to be building off of what you splash this into. So anything that uses fairies is going to love this. And, like, Despian of Tragedy is probably one of the simplest, yet also most effective ones here, because if you're sending him to the graveyard at all by a card effect, you just get to add any other Despia monster, like Albert, or heck, the one we talked about earlier, the level 8 that you want to have.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
So you can foolish him, you can, use him as a fusion material, you can tribute him with some sort of card effect, and, like, Tragedy is easily much better than Comedy, which is kind of ironic, and I love the idea behind him, and again, you can banish him again, and I understand that you can only use one of his effects per turn, but the fact that you can banish him to target a Stigmatica, not only are the Stigmatica cards the ones that we're looking at here from Dawn of Majesty, but if you remember, people were wondering what the heck Stigmatica was because we had Stigmatica stuff coming out in Lightning Overdrive.
Yeah, we did,
that was surrounding Fallen of Albaz.
Yeah, and I remember us talking about that. Would it become more prevalent than Alistair? Because that was something we were talking about at that time. But keep going.
I don't think it's going to become more prevalent than Alistair, just because Alistair is still, I mean, everyone jokes about it. Alistair, normal summon, invocation, and your opponent scoops. It is just what it is nowadays with Alistair. People like to make jokes about him. Albert here is actually very cool because he's another generic searcher for any Stigmatica spell or trap.
Yep.
And
yeah, because this gets you the field spell instantly. You have the Or does the field spell say Stigmatica? I don't know if it does. Let me look at that. Yeah,
Well,
it does.
its
Yeah.
name is Stigmatica.
Yeah. So it says Stigmatica Theater, and you get Curtain Rise. I mean, just an amazing card. What a normal summon.
So you get the old ones and you get the new ones, and I mean, even then, people are like, well, his effect's kind of steep, but unlike comedy, it's a nice recovery effect, and even on special summon, not only are you negating an effect, but you're still going to be able to search a Stigmatica spell, and that's just so good. And again, it's not the best thing ever, but it gets the job done. It gets the searching, it
Yeah.
can summon itself, and
I'll be curious
again,
what the
Dark
price
Lords.
of this will be. I imagine this will be the chase cards. There's a lot of good stuff, guys, in Dawn of Majesty already. Because you had the Magic Key, and now you've got the Despian cards here. They're good. I mean,
Yeah.
these are pretty good. We also have here this next card. I'm trying to remember the name of it. But how it works, if a fairy monster you control activates its effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. Great for extending. You can target one face-up card your opponent controls and one attack position monster you do. Banish the first, and if you do, change the second target to defense position. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one monster in the field. It cannot be destroyed by battle this turn. I really like the first effect that if a fairy monster you control activates its effect, you can special summon this card from the hand. This is splashable in so many different fairy engines. Do you think this is going to be a definite go-to for fairy archetypes?
It's not even just archetypes, it's just for certain engines. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
again, if a fairy monster you control activates its effect, there are so many good fairies that activate their effects. I could tell you, like, this could see use in Weather Painters, for example, because Weather Painters activate their effects. You get a free big body on the field, banishment.
Absolutely.
You're
How
able to
about
use this
Trick
with
Stars? They're all fairies, if I'm not mistaken. I
Trick
mean,
Stars, I think, are fairies.
yeah.
This can work with Dark Lords, obviously. And something that people have been bringing up is
Melodious
that
cards. Yeah, this is a really good card. Anyways, continue your thought.
and people are bringing up, like, it can't be a coincidence that they're making a huge splashable light fairy in the same set as Despia, a deck that wants to have light monsters to summon the big boss that summons from your opponent's graveyard.
Yes.
So it's a great extender, and most people, when you think of cards that special summon themselves as a reaction, usually it's like if a monster is destroyed or something tragic. This one is just activate your effect. So you could literally summon a fairy monster like go back real quick. Is Albur a fairy? I feel like Albur's fairy, isn't
Yeah,
he?
they're all fairies. All of them are.
Yeah, so
yeah.
No. You summon, so if you're going first, I mean, you're not gonna be able to banish right away, but you could still get an extension because you summon Albur, get your search, you activated a fairy, bada bing, bada boom, you get a free level 7 2500 body on the field for extension plays.
That is just so good, guys. What a set this is going to be. Now, there is some what I really like here, some extension for some older stuff too. So you've got the is it Chromaly?
Chronomaly.
Wait,
like
say that again.
Yes.
Chromaly? Or wait, say it again.
Chronomaly. So
Chronomaly.
Like
Thank you, though.
And
Chronomaly.
Chronomaly.
Okay, Chronomaly. So you've got Chronomaly here that I think it's good that they're bringing some different effects back or cards to support those decks because these are old. This archetype. Is this from the Xyz era, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, this is Zexal era, and for reference, we did get a Chronomaly card like a year or two ago called Tuspa Ship, and the reason why it works the way it does is because lore-wise, the guy who plays Chronomalies is the younger brother of the guy who plays Gimmick Puppets.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And stuff like that. Like, there's a whole family of them.
So let's go ahead and take a look at what they've got here. So the first one is Chronomaly Megaloglobe. You contribute this card, special summon one Chronomaly monster from your deck. If this card is in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you can banish one Chronomaly card from your graveyard, except Chronomaly Megaloglobe. Add this card to your hand. That is solid support. And
Yes,
then
it
you've
is.
got Chronomaly Acro, or let's see, no, I don't know how to say this.
A Comboro,
A
a Camboro. It's
Comboro
kind of got
figure.
an
There we
accent on
go.
it.
If a Chronomaly monster or monsters you control be destroyed by a battle or an opponent's card effect, you can discard this card instead. If this card is in your graveyard, you can pay 1,000 life points, special summon it, but return it to the hand during the end phase. You cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate this card or this effect except Chronomaly monsters. So,
Hmm.
what do you think? Which one do you like the best?
Well, anybody can tell you Megaloglobe is essentially a slightly neutered Lone Fire, which the deck
Mm-hmm.
loves. It means you can go into
Yes.
any of your Chronomalies. It's not level. It's not against certain levels, so you can more easily facilitate Xyz plays based on what you have. The figure is kind of hit or miss. I think that it's got nice little protection there, but it
Mm-hmm.
feels like something from the Xyz era.
It's
It doesn't feel like it's new.
yes. It feels
And
outdated. Yes. That's
well,
exactly
and
what
here's the
I
thing.
thought.
And here's the thing. I couldn't tell you because I don't play Chronomalies. I remember hearing people tell me that Chronomalies had a very brief moment of hype because of a certain card called Nebradisc.
Uh-huh.
And Nebradisc was going to make the deck good, but we didn't get Nebradisc until like a year or so after the OCG did. So by the time Nebradisc came out, the deck was power crept, and I don't remember how the deck was played. I don't know how people had been playing it, so I don't know if the Chronomaly restriction is as bad as it looks. But I
Yeah.
feel like they want more generic stuff in there, so I feel like it's just so restrictive that it's like compared to the Globe, this guy feels kind of, weak.
Yeah. He feels outdated. That's what I thought too.
Yes.
I thought Megaloglobe was the best one of the two that we're looking at. There's more cards we'll be discussing, but the Megaloglobe is a great starter for the deck, one that definitely they need. So I thought it was pretty good. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Xyz monster. I do like this card. So notice it takes only 2 level 5 monsters. Once per turn, it's a quick effect. You can target one face-up monster on the field, add one Chronomaly monster or Xyz monster in your graveyard. The first target gains attack equal to half the second target's until the end of this turn. Then attach the second target to this card as material. Once per turn, when an opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can detach 2 materials from this card and negate the activation. So I look at this grunt as a cheaper version of Cyber Dragon Infinity.
Kinda.
It's not as good because we know Cyber Dragon Infinity stops spell, trap, or monster effect, but it does free up one card from your extra deck. Because if you're playing the Cyber Dragon Infinity, you're typically playing 2 cards that you may not, or 1 card that you may not usually play, being Nova. Thoughts on
Mhm.
this? What do you think?
So, Pokemaster Ian just brought this up, and that is true. This is generic. So, if you could summon Nova, you could summon this too. The one thing I will note here is that Machumak, the other rank 5 in the deck, does have the ability where a monster has different attack. It can burn your opponent equal to that difference, and then it gains attack equal to what you burned them for. And you know what I'm talking about. I used that card in that gimmicky burn deck with
Mm-hmm.
Ultimato
Oh
Bish
yeah,
Vulcan.
yeah,
Uh, so this facilitates Machumak more easily, and it's nice. They like having another rank 5 because they have a rank 4, they have a rank 6. They definitely can use the rank 5 much more easily with what they have. So I think this is a good addition to the deck.
I agree. I think it's a good addition to the deck, and like you had mentioned, that also Pokemaster Slam had also mentioned, it's generic. So there's lots of decks that run level 5s, and this gives them a generic way to extend into something good. Looking at the trap here, Chronomaly Esperanza Gilf, and I believe Esperanza means hope in a language, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it is. I believe it is Spanish.
Okay.
Or Hispanic.
It says here during the main phase, target one Xyz monster card you control or in your graveyard. Special summon 2 Chronomaly monsters from your hand, deck, and or graveyard that are 1 level higher than the monster card's rank, but their effects are negated. And if you do immediately after this card resolves, Xyz summon 1 Chronomaly Xyz monster using only those 2 monsters. It's not bad, but it's kind of like what you're saying. It feels kind of power crept. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't know. I say that because I'm gonna actually check real quick because I remember one of the chief complaints I heard about Chronomalies was that they didn't have the easiest time summoning their what was it? Their rank 6. I'm actually gonna read that one right now because I want to remember what he does. Atlantis, that's what his name is.
Okay. See,
so like Atlantis wasn't easy to summon because he required 2 level 6s.
Yeah.
And the 6s in Chronomalies weren't the best, if I remember correctly.
Right.
So you would target a number in your graveyard, equip it, he gains attack, attach 1, send a monster, and have your opponent's life points. Yeah, I could kind of see them trying to bring out Atlantis, or if you have the rank 4 on the field, you can use the 5s to make either of the rank 5s on the board, or if you have the level, or the rank 3 Xyz, you can summon the rank 4. It's got some nice climbing potential, and there are a few Chronomaly Xyz out there. I feel like they could use more, but it's a decent idea.
Yeah. And this card, for those of you who don't know, is really great for if you could pull off a first turn kill. You target 1 number monster in your graveyard, equip it to this card. This card gains attack equal to half. Once per turn, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, send that monster equip, and then you have your opponent's life points. You can't conduct your battle phase, but there were other burn strategies to try and actually get this out. So it's actually one of the first number cards I actually used myself back when I first started playing Yu-Gi-Oh with my son. But it just seems a little slow to me. Are there some cards that could maybe speed this up? Like, because it is a normal trap. Would Trap Trick help?
I mean, you could run Trap Trick with this. I mean, again, it's not like Atlantis is the only one out there. There's the rank 3. There's the other rank 4. I think that's called Chronomaly Chateau. And I guess my point is that I can't tell you 100% because I don't play Chronomalies. I never have. I've always been interested in them.
Someone just brought up a good point. A lot of the Chronomaly cards are actually rock based. So there is potential there with Adamanticators, making some of that work. Yeah, that's a great point from Pokemaster here. I didn't even think about that.
The only issue is that a lot of if you want to summon the rank 5 or 6, you're not able to summon level 5 or higher rocks.
Right, unless you use the wind Synchro 6 monster, right.
Yeah, so you could do it. It's definitely, I could see somebody out there building a fun rogue deck at best. Chronomalies aren't going to be meta with this, but it is appreciated. Kind of like when Gimmick Puppets, got their support. Kind of like when Harpies and Rose Dragons got their support.
Yeah.
We're not expecting this to be meta. It's definitely something that the Chronomaly players are probably appreciating, though. I mean, if you want to look at if you want to do a mini market watch right now, you could look at a Nebra disc and see that it's gone up in value.
Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Because it only had 1 printing.
Well, and that's the thing. Grab those 1 printings when you can, guys. Now, looking at the Chronomaly spell card that they've got, it's a continuous one. And it says, if you control no monsters, all monsters you control you control are Chronomaly monsters. You can pay 500 life points and special summon 1 Chronomaly monster from your hand. That's really good. If your Chronomaly Xyz monster or number Xyz monster would activate its effect by detaching material, you can send this card to the graveyard instead of one of those materials. Man, Grunt, that looks like solid support to me.
any archetype would love extension like this if they're not
Yes.
stun based, and Chronomaly, being an Xyz based deck, would really love that. Now, there are certain deck or cards that extend. I believe, like, Crystal Bones is an extender. I'm pretty sure, well, obviously, Nebra Disc is an extender. A lot of their starters and extenders are already good on their own, but being able to extend even further with a spell, which I believe is searchable,
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely a good card to have.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's definitely something good. I don't really know how. Again, someone who plays Chronomaly would have to tell me how relevant it would be to pitch your spell for a material. I would say if you're going to kill your opponent that turn, sure, but I
Yeah.
don't really know how relevant that is.
Absolutely. The next card that we have is not related to this, but it's a nice generic card, and I love cards that include other cards' art. So if you look at Pendulum Treasure here, that is a Pendulum Scale 7 card. It's a normal monster. It's a
Gong
machine
Dragon?
type. I can't remember what it's called.
Let me
Um,
look. I think it's like Gong Dragon or
Yes,
Dragon
something like
Gong.
that. But it was one of the first ones I remember building decks with for students because it's so dirt cheap. But I love that they used the art of a card in another card. I think that's awesome. But I like this card. It's great. I hope it's super cheap because literally it says add one pendulum monster from your deck to your extra deck face up. That is absolutely fantastic. The idea that you could just any pendulum monster, it goes straight to the top of your extra deck, and then you instantly have another way to pendulum something out. Oh, I've
It's
been waiting for that.
literally, it's literally a generic version of the Do Re Mi, and I like that. I like the spell card
Uh
that just
huh.
lets them
Uh
add
huh.
face up, and it's nice. Any pendulum deck that needs extra, like, again, everyone's been complaining about Electromite. Well, here's kind of Electromite. It's part of Electromite's effect, and
Mm-hmm.
it should help facilitate your summons.
Oh, absolutely. And it's nice to see some pendulum support. I really like that they're finding different ways to actually do that. I think that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's not even the last piece of pendulum support in this set. They've
Right.
already revealed
Yep.
a few others.
Yep, absolutely. Looking here, we've got dimer synthesis. And so you
Yep.
add one catalyst field from your deck to your hand, add one burnout or one Chroma Critter monster from your deck to your hand. So we're using Gemi cards here then. Okay, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target two face-up monsters you control, including a Gemi monster that has gained its effects. Until the end of this turn, make the attack of one target 0. The other attack gains attack equal to the original attack of the other monster. Interesting. I think I like the one effect best, where you get to add stuff to your hand.
Yep.
Grunt, do you think they're going to use that card in any other way? Do you really see the second effect being used a
So
lot?
anybody who follows, and I say this because the other card here, it falls into the same camp. Anyone who follows what I call one pack sets, or archetypes that only get one pack of support, and then Konami just shoves them aside like you did your job, you were pack filler. Like, that's what I get here. That's what I like about this. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying, like, there's probably a good 5 Chemicritter players out there. I hate to sound like a jerk, but nobody really likes Chemicritters because they're not that good of a
Oh, they're
Gemini deck
terrible. They're terrible.
for
Yeah.
when they were released. I tried messing with them, and I
Me
remember
too.
hearing their OCG name, and I'm like, Chemical Beasts? That
Uh-huh.
sounds cool. And
That
then I see what
sounds
they
neat,
do, and I'm
right?
like,
Yeah.
I mean, the big deal is that if they ever make an archetype that really abuses Gemini mechanics, having 3 additional terraforming for Catalyst Field is going to be a very much appreciated thing. And that's why I included this here. This isn't for Chemicritters. Trust me, guys, if you're playing Chemicritters, you're using Catalyst Field wrong, because there are much better Gemini fields, or Gemini monsters that can abuse that field spell.
Yeah.
But I always like cards that are like, we get terraforming is broken, but we specifically want this field spell to see more play.
Yeah.
And this is just, again, I just feel like this is going to be very good for any Gemini strat out there if they can ever make Geminis relevant.
And I agree with that. For people who want support for other archetypes that have seen almost zero, this is a good thing. So I think that's good. Speaking of an underappreciated archetype, which Grunt has a awesome Ant-Emancipator Trimid build.
I
Because
love
I
that
got to
deck.
see that, and if you check out my backlog for our channel here, you'll get to see it as well. But this is a great card. So try mid loading. If a field spell is placed into a field zone, and this card is already face up, you can add one try mid spell or trap from your deck to your hand. That's really good.
Yes, it
If a
is.
face up rock you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you get to special summon one try mid monster with a different name from your deck. Grunt,
Hmm.
how excited are you to see this card?
So this is everything the deck needed. I noticed
Yes.
this with playtesting the deck. The one downside for Trimids is that if you don't, get your combos off right, if your monsters leave the field, you might be left where your field spells aren't getting replaced, and suddenly you're sitting on no field spells. Or the opposite happens where you have enough field spells, but after they kill your, Trimid monster, if you don't have any Sphinxes in your hand or any other recovery, you're dead. So
Yeah.
you run 3 of this, suddenly you've got more recursion. You get advantage off of your field spells to help deck thin. It also gives you a better searcher for their continuous trap, which is also a solid card. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I just hope that they keep doing this, where every few
Yes.
sets maybe they trickle out a little support for the deck, because
Yeah, it's got
it's a neat,
potential.
it's a concept.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, there's definite potential, and it's definitely the right deck for, or it's definitely the right card for that deck. Okay, so
Hmm.
speaking of trickling out support, we've got the
Yep.
Gusto cards actually getting something going on here. So the first one here is Feather. Or Feather, if a face-up Gusto monster or monster is destroyed by battle or sent to your graveyard, and this card is in your hand, you can special summon it. If this card is normal or special summoned, send one Gusto monster from your deck to the graveyard. Then you can special summon one Gusto monster from your hand. So I feel like the second effect would definitely be better than the first, but it is a tuner as well. And then you've
Hmm.
got the next one here, the Synchro. If this card is Synchro summoned, you can activate this effect. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except win monsters. Also, special summon 2 Gusto monsters, one each from your hand and deck, but their effects are negated. And if you do, immediately after this effect resolves, Synchro summon one Gusto Synchro monster using only those 2 monsters. And then the second effect is pretty interesting here. Your opponent cannot target other Gusto Synchro monsters you control with card effects. Grunt, is that as long as the card is on the field, or is that after that indefinitely?
Nah, that's while Rapper and Pelica here is on the field, and I'm gonna say this now because we have one more card to look at. For those of you who don't know Gusto's strategy, it is probably one of the most fun ideas I've seen from Dual Terminal, where you bring out this one card. I believe it's Digusto's
Uh
Freeze.
huh.
And the idea is literally that she can't be destroyed by battle. And anytime your Gustos battle, your opponent takes the damage instead.
Mm-hmm. Yes, super
So
fun.
so you ram a lot of your little Gustos into your opponent. A lot of them have effects that keep summoning others or recurring them. So you keep ramming your little guys and freeze until your opponent essentially loses because they had too strong of a monster. So you'll run Kaijus or Nibiru and leave a
Uh
big
huh.
token, and so this facilitates that. The reason why I bring this up though is because it's like the level 6 synchro here is kind of cool, but it might not be really. There might not be a point to summoning it if you already can somehow freeze, because targeting immunity is fine, but
Mm-hmm.
freeze is more against non-targeting effects that might destroy her, like battle traps, if
Yeah.
that's really going to be an issue. So I don't really
Yeah.
know if targeting protection is the biggest deal here.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Makes complete sense. Now, looking at some other cards that we do have here, we've got the Gusto Tailwind and its equip spell. So the equip monster cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. During your main phase, you can activate one of these effects based on the equipped monster's level or rank, which I think is nice too. If it's 4 or lower, special summon one Gusto monster with a different type from your deck. That's amazing. Level 5 or higher, special summon one level 1 tuner from your deck. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then declare one wind monster, add one Gusto spell or trap from your deck to your hand. That's pretty good. And then you've also got Perian the Skylark Dragon here. It's generic, takes 2 level 6 monsters. It says you can only use this card's second effect once per turn. So the first effect is it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect while a monster special summoned from the graveyard other than Perian the Skylark Dragon is face up on the field. And then once per turn during the standby phase, you can detach one material from this card, target one level 5 or lower monster in your graveyard, and you get to special summon it. It's got decent stats, being a level 6, being 2700. Grunt, what do you like about either card, or what are the downsides to either card?
I like the idea behind the equip spell. I mean, literally what you can do is, if we're being realistic here, you can summon Freeze, equip it with the equip spell, and then since it specifies level 1 tuner, you bring out the level 1 tuner, which is a Gusto Eagle. And Eagle's got this cute little soft once per turn, not even a once per turn because of how it works. And when Eagle's destroyed, you special summon a level 4 or lower non-tuner Gusto. He only has 200 attack, so it's very easy for him to ram himself into something while you have Freeze out. You use Eagle to go into Winda, Priestess of the Gusto, she rams, and then you summon a tuner, so you summon Eagle, and if you keep looping them, it's very easy to overpower and kill your opponent with it. It's a gimmicky build, but it works, and I've seen it work. So this facilitates it. That's what I like about it, is it facilitates it.
Yes, and I like that too. Anytime you have cards that are facilitating cards moving the deck forward, yes, let's do that. That's how all the cards should be that release for these archetypes. Let's propel the deck forward, like you just said there. I like that. Moving on a little bit here, because I know, guys, those of you who have been with us for a while, we've been talking quite a bit.
There's a lot to discuss.
There was. Yes, there was. So we've got the Doremi Chord Link monster, which was brought up earlier. So let's look at that now. So during your main phase, you can add one Pendulum monster from your hand to your extra deck face up. And if you do, add one face up Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand with an odd pendulum scale if the first monster had an even pendulum scale, or an even pendulum scale if the first one was an odd pendulum scale. When you pendulum summon a Doremi Chord monster or monsters, you can target one of them, add one Doremi Chord pendulum monster with a level equal to the targeted monster's pendulum scale from your deck to your hand. What support! Wow. And then we've got this Pendulum monster here. Right away, I like that it has a scale 0. That's awesome. Any non-monster card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. Dumb Gamers 22, if you're watching, that's a great card because you can search it. And then it says here, you can reveal this card in your hand, add one other Pendulum monster from your hand, or one card from your Pendulum Zone to the extra deck face up, and if you do, special summon this card. If another monster or monsters is normal or specialed, while this card is in the monster zone, activate this effect. Send the monster or monsters to the graveyard during the end phase of this turn. So both cards have definite strong suits to them. What are you thinking here, Grant? What's your thoughts?
So usually you think of Link monsters as at times, or you get extenders like Electromite.
Yes.
And again, ironically, for a Pendulum Link monster, the Grand Doremi Chord here is definitely more of an extender. Again, you have the ability to just add a Pendulum monster from your hand to your extra deck face up. It could be any Pendulum monster, mind you, and you're able to add one back to your hand. So it's generic enough that certain decks might actually be able to use her to kind of swap things. I'm not saying that they will, but, life finds a way. Someone will find a way to use this in a generic pendulum deck and
Absolutely.
facilitate something.
Yeah, and it's
And her
great,
second
great
effect,
support. Being a Link 2 like this, both corners pointing down, that's a really, really good card.
well, in her other effect, it's literally, make of it what you will. You pendulum summon a Doremi Court monster, and then you get to add another one to your hand for
Mm-hmm.
future setup. And because you're able to add a monster with a targeted scale, you might be somewhat limited. But like, if you summon the level 6, for example, you could search out another level 2 for extension,
Yep,
stuff like that.
yep. And then how about the banishing effect of the Psi card here, the antagonist intelligence? That's amazing for banished decks. You know, I'm
Yeah.
assuming you can run 3 of these. So now you have Dimensional Fissure and you have Marco Cosmos. You will now have 5 ways to guarantee that some cards are going to. I mean, now again, it's non-monster cards, but
Which
still,
is
it's
still
more
good.
banishing. I mean, that's interesting to me.
I mean, the way I see it, it's like, what was I gonna say? So like I think the biggest example is like if we're talking about going first with this and just setting it, it does kill certain plays. For one,
Yeah,
let me actually double check how that works. Like I think that one of the biggest examples, if we're going off of what we were talking about, was Eldritch. Now all of her
yeah.
spells and
Eldritch
traps are
is
going to
in
get
huge
banished.
trouble. Yeah, I was thinking Salamangrate's in trouble with this.
Oh,
Uh,
Salamangreats are in trouble with this. Oh, here's a fun one. Alistair uses Invocation. Oh, wait, my
oh
Invocation is
yeah,
banished.
yeah.
Now what?
Yeah, and that's a huge issue then if you run into this card. That's a great point. Really good point.
Any deck that wants to keep its spells and traps around are going to have
Mm-hmm.
a tough time.
Oh,
And this
absolutely.
is. And I think that that's good. Now, it doesn't stop control decks because control decks, you destroy there can be only one or stuff like that. It's not going to
Right.
stop them really because, it's gone anyway. But for decks that like their stuff in the graveyard,
And to like to have it come
this
back. Yes.
this will see play because we've seen cards like this before. Pendulums that aren't played for their pendulum but just for their effect as a spell. It's
Yeah.
happened before, and I
Yeah.
mean, it's a Cyberse monster, so it does have some searchability.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely good things here with this card. Like you said, it's Cyberse. You can search this card. There's definite ways to get to it, which I'm pretty excited about. So it'll be very interesting to see how the card is used in the future. Now,
Mm-hmm.
some other things coming in Dawn of Majesty, which is kind of nice. You do have some other instant fusion targets here. So you've got Alvian, the Final Nothingness. It's got decent defense at 2100. That's it. It's just an extender that I'm assuming in some way is going to be used somehow by someone.
Oh,
It's
we
two
all
normal
know.
monsters, so
We all know what happens. You're summoning this with Retort Fusion, and you're using it for Halqifibrax.
yeah. Oh, hey, that makes sense. Yes. Retort Fusion. So, like you were just saying, pay 1,000 life points. Special 1 level 6 or lower non-effect monster from your extra deck. But it cannot attack. Also, it's destroyed during the end phase. So, this is definitely going to see play. I have no doubt people are going to use this. So, it'll be really interesting to see this. And I do like the magical scientist
I
art
was about
on
to
the
say,
card. Yeah, that looks
anyone
awesome.
who's played back in Magical Scientist days is laughing at how Magical Scientist is holding a thumbs up because you're using
Yes.
essentially one use of his effect.
I completely agree. Absolutely. Okay. Some other cards that I just threw in here because they are coming in the set. The first one here, the mystical beast of the forest. It says here, if this card is sent from the hand to the graveyard, you can target up to 2 other monsters with different types from each other: beast, beast warrior, wing beast, insect, or plant in your graveyard. Shuffle them into the deck, and if you do, special summon the card. that's actually not bad for those type of decks. If this card is normal or special, add one mystical beast of the forest or mystical spirit of the forest monster from your deck to your hand, except the one that we've got right there in front of you. So not bad. Then I'm shocked that the Aqua Mador is still seeing so much support. This card. So Glacial Aqua Mador. At the start of the damage step, when your normal monster battles an opponent's monster, you can reveal this card from your hand, discard one card, and if you do, your battling monster cannot be destroyed by this battle. At the start of the damage step, when this card battles an opponent's monster, you can reveal one normal monster in your hand, discard one card, and if you do, destroy that opponent's monster. Your thoughts on these cards, Grunt, especially the Glacial Aqua Mador.
So I like the Glacial Aqua Mador because I always kind of did like Aqua Mador's
Me
appearance.
too, for the 3,000 defense, yes.
Like he's got the hair, he's got the weird mask and the frill. Like you don't know what's going on with him, but he's just got this funny appearance. And even in GOAT format, you've got people who are like, well, he's a 2K wall, but he's got more attack than Mystical Elf. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
And I like that about him. He's always been one of my favorite normal monsters.
I agree with that completely. Yes.
So I like this. It's just that this is going to be something that's never going to be meta. It's something fun to play and build around. But I like that. And Kalpapanica here, he's I don't know where he came from. Mystical Spirits and Beasts, for those who don't know, they were released years ago. Like I think it was like Synchro format. And then we have more that trickled out. So we've got like Valeraphon, which is the little deer you see.
Yes,
with
the little deer. That's the one I thought of instantly when I think of the mystical beasts of the forest. Yeah, because it was all those cute animal type cards. Yes.
Or Uniflora, that one little unicorn that was abused for a while because Konami had to errata it. So like it's an interesting idea. It's just kind of random because I feel like if they want to make a mystical beast deck, go right ahead, but the current cards don't really synergize much with each other.
Yes, absolutely. And then something else to look forward to. We already know about the Egyptian god decks that are coming, but the Cyberdark Structure deck. So this is going to be interesting because they're promising it's going to properly blend the Cyberdarks with the Cyber Dragons. I'm going to be very interested to see how they properly do that. And then you also have some nice reprints probably coming in like Power Bond. So I'm pretty excited about the set. And then there's some cards that we're going to discuss with that. So the first one here is Cyberdark Dragon. It's a level 12, and boy, is this just interesting to me. So how it works must be either fusion summoned or specialed by attributing one level 10 or lower Cyberdark fusion monster equipped with Cyber and Dragon. If you pull this off, it's unaffected by any effect activated by your opponent. Once per turn, you can equip one monster from either graveyard to this card. This card's maximum number of attacks per battle phase is equal to the number of cards equipped to it. And I'm assuming you can equip over and over. You don't lose the card that you equip. So if you get 5 equipped to it, it can make 5 attacks. And it's got pretty decent protection, at least for monsters. And it's a 5K beat stick. Do you think this is going to be easy to pull out, though, Grunt?
Oh, yes. The other support that we've seen so far from the deck makes this a lot more feasible. I'm not saying it's going to always be turboed out, but it's going to be turboed out a lot more often than you would think. And, I mean, this goes without saying. I thought about this right as soon as I read the card. I put this in the Discord. People are already thinking about throwing this into certain decks and like, hey, I could equip the Buster Sword from my graveyard to this guy, and now I've got an unaffected Vanity's Emptiness for the extra deck.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a scary thought.
Because you could equip anything, so...
Yes. Oh, that's a problem. Looking at some of the support here, we got Cyberdark Chimeria. You can discard one spell or trap, add one power bond from your deck to your hand. Also, you cannot use monsters as fusion material for the rest of this turn except dragon or machine cyber monsters. And once, if you fusion summon this turn, you can use monsters in your graveyard as the fusion materials by banishing them. Wow. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can send one Cyberdark monster from your deck to the graveyard with a name different from the cards in your graveyard. Whoa. Okay, and then we have Cybernetic Horizon. You can only activate one card with this card's name once per turn. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck the turn you activate this card except machine monsters. Send 2 dragon and or machine cyber monsters with different attributes to the grave, one from your hand, one from your deck. Add 1 dragon or machine cyber monster from your deck to your hand, and if you do, send 1 machine cyber fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. Oh my gosh. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's how you're going to make the big guy, isn't it?
you just, well, there's other combo cards you're probably going to need, and I feel like we're still going to see a handful of cards, coming out in the structure deck, because right now we only have these 3 new cards, and Konami's not going to just give us 3. They're going to give us maybe 2 more, 3 more cards to work with, and I mean, the biggest deal here is that you're literally going to take Cybernetic Horizon, and you're able to pretty much be like, okay, well, I can set up for my Cyberdark Dragon, which maybe there'll be a card or 2 to help with facilitating that. And in the meantime, I can send my Cyber End Dragon to the graveyard. And then, if you're able to use Power Bond, you're able to banish your Cyber End and a Cyberdark Dragon you summon. So you don't even have to do the other summoning mechanic, but you can.
Yeah.
And then you got a 10,000 unaffected monster that you can equip with something.
Peeps.
So it's overkill, it's fun, and I'm just gonna say this. I feel like it's ironic that Cyberdarks are the first card to give us a very good, proper Power Bond Searcher, because we've had one before, but nobody runs Cyber Pharaohs because it's just so slow.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Wow. Unbelievable. A very interesting card. Okay, so now for Retort Fusion, I do like that you brought up all the different targets that could work for that. There are quite a few guys. It's a really good card, and it's always nice to have a list of what those might actually be so you can refer to that. Now, in Dawn of Majesty... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Before we go on, I do want to... let me find where I got this post from. I want to give credit to the Twitter who had this post, because
it's right on there. Ready for duel.
Okay, good. Ready for duel.
Yeah. They always have their stuff posted.
So shout outs to them for providing this list. And I will tell you guys now. There are some very relevant cards here that I wanted to bring up. So obviously we got Theseus here. I'll get to him in a second. But seriously, if you know your locals has a large bargain bin full of commons,
they're loaded with these. Yes, absolutely.
Because I went to my locals yesterday and I was able to find like on the bottom right here, you see like the yellow dragon. That's he's Soul Hunter. Soul Hunter's a lot of these normal fusions like Soul Hunter were only in astral packs or tournament packs, so they're not exactly cheap, even though they're common. So I got Soul Hunter for cheap. I got Practical, the purple dinosaur here on the bottom. Like, there's a lot of normal fusions you might want.
And I remember when the Thunder one, when Thunder Dragon was relevant, holy crap was that going up in price.
So
that card is insane.
Well, and generically, there's a lot of applications. You've got on the bottom here, Mystical Sand. You see, like, second left from the bottom, that, like, red wish-looking card. She's rock.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So run her in your Adamantipator deck. You got some zombies in here. You've got warriors for Isolde. Like, having 3 more instant fusions, even if they're not effects, it gives you a lot of good fodder. And the other thing is that even if you want to be gimmicky, you could also more easily facilitate summoning Beatrice
Yeah.
because it gives you half of your rank 6.
Well, and I like that you said, you brought up instant fusion.
Mhm.
This is nice that they've given us something similar. It's not
Yes,
instant fusion because instant fusion was really good with like relinquished and different, or not relinquished. Yeah, relinquished
Thousand Eyes
or
Restrict.
thousand eyes restrict. Thank you. And other cards like that. But this is nice because it still gives us a way to properly extend. And now
Mhm.
that you've said that for rocks, there's a very good chance I'm going to run 3 of those. I mean, because it's an extender. I mean, you just got to have one of the tuners that you could use, and then you have a way to go into all your craziness.
And
So,
I want to bring this up right now because I know that there are some crazy buyouts going on. And so if we're looking at, I'm sure you know, I don't know how you pronounce it, Mavelis or Mavelis,
uh
the
huh,
orange bird level 4.
yes,
So Dragunity players like to run that because it's an easy level 4 to summon, and since it's wind, you can use it for your synchro summons. My advice
yes,
to Dragunity players is that if you don't want to pick up Mavelis for like $20, you could pick up,
wow,
he's on the bottom here, you could pick up Punished Eagle as a level 6. And if you want to run Retort Fusion, I don't know how cheap this card will be. This could be a secret that's worth $100, but assuming Retort Fusion is relatively affordable, Punish Eagle is level 6. You summon Phalanx off of its effect, and you have an instant level 8 for Barcha or
yeah,
Barca.
yeah.
So, like, there are good targets here. There are some really good cheap ones to pick up that only have one printing. So, again, if you guys are bored, just look through the list of non-effect fusions and see if there's
Yeah.
something you might want
I
to pick up
never
for
get
cheap.
rid of the fusion cards that I find in bulk because I know they're instant fusion targets or now
Mm-hmm.
retort fusion. So great points. Oh,
Well,
one thing else I wanted to talk
yep.
about. We forgot to talk about this card with Dawn of Majesty.
Oh, the Xyz.
Yeah, the Xyz here. It's pretty interesting. So it's generic. It's 2 level 7s. So you could easily throw this in like Cyber Dragon or not Cyber Dragon, Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon builds. Once per
Yes.
turn, detach 2 materials from this card. Then target one face-up card on the field. Destroy it. If you destroy a monster with this effect, you can have one face-up monster you control gain 300 attack and times the destroyed monster's original level or rank until the end of the next turn. This card cannot attack the turn you activate this effect. If this card has a dragon monster as an Xyz material, the effect becomes a quick effect. And that's why I was saying if
Yes.
you can run this in like Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, that's pretty good. Thoughts that you have on that, Grunt?
It's so I like this, but I feel like it's a few years late. I say this because you're
Yes, I could see that
if
too, though.
well, because here's the thing, like rank 7s aren't the worst thing to summon, but let's put something in perspective here. First off, this requires 2 level 7s, which is the exact same materials for Draco Sack,
Uh huh.
and you have to detach both of your materials for one
Yeah,
pop.
that's pretty dangerous.
And he
Yeah.
can't attack. And yes, it's a quick effect, but I feel like Draco Sec or Big Eye are still better
Oh,
options
Big Eye's much
Big Eye
better. Yes.
because Big Eye gets rid of his attack, but he steals a resource. He doesn't just
Yeah, he
destroy
takes the
it.
card.
And
Yeah. And then
this
it's
doesn't even
permanently
have
yours. Yeah, it's really good.
this doesn't even have the gall to not target. He has to target, and it just
Mm-hmm.
feels like a very hefty fine to
Price.
pay. I feel like he's a nice extender, maybe, but
Well, what
I
I was
guess I'm just saying
thinking,
there's better
I'm
options.
curious how cheap this will be. I'm hoping it will be cheap because, like you said, it does seem a little late. Me being a budget guy, if you
Yeah.
can't afford the $5 for number 11 Big Eye, and this is cents, this gives you something else to try. So it's an interesting card because I do know some of those other cards, they're starting to get up there now. The number 11 Big Eye, the last I checked, was around $5. So
Yeah.
it's starting to
Big Eye
climb
always
back
finds a
up.
way.
Um, Now, going to some of the other support here for aliens, you've got Alien Buster. If this card is sent to the graveyard,
Yes.
target one face-up monster, place 2 counters on it. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target one card on the field with an A counter, and destroy it. So Kind of
Yep.
interesting because especially if you link this off because it goes to the grave, then
Yep.
you banish it, then you target the one card on the field that has an A counter and you pop it. So I mean, it's interesting in that regard. And then you've got the Cosmic Princer here that requires 2 reptiles. If this card is link summon, you
Plus,
can
yes.
add 1 card from your with an effect that places A counters from your deck to your hand. You can remove 2 A counters from the field immediately after this effect resolves. Normal summon 1 reptile monster. Now, does that mean any
Yes.
summon?
Any
Like
reptile.
oh wow. So and it doesn't matter what the summoning cost is, or does
Oh, no. It would be a normal summon, so it
okay.
gives you an additional normal summon.
Gotcha.
It's not. Yeah, no. I wish I could cheat out a level 8.
Yeah,
No,
that would.
that's
Oh, I
not.
know. Yeah, when this card is in the monster zone, monsters your opponent controls with A counters are changed to defense position and cannot activate their effects. Okay, interesting. So, thoughts you
So,
have for these cards?
so at face value, I love this because I have loved Aliens ever since they came out way back in the GX era, and I think Konami has finally done them a good service with this, and I'm gonna explain that in a little bit because this link here is nasty. This link
Yeah,
is nasty. Like in a pure alien build, you're not gonna get much. With Abyss, this
that's what
thing
I was
is
thinking. Yeah.
a monster with Abyss, and I can't explain enough how crazy it is because it synergizes so well with the ability to just search out a card that
Uh
places
huh.
A counters,
Yeah.
and there's stuff you can do with it. It's nasty. So
Yeah,
it's
it looks solid. I agree. And it's nice to see so much reptile support. I think it's the right way to go. And I
so
like
what
the
I want to
combo
bring up.
pieces you brought up here. Yeah, so go ahead and walk through those.
So what I want to bring up before we could discuss this combo is the card right here on the far left, Planet Pollutant Virus. So right here, tribute 1 alien. Destroy all face-up monsters without 8 counters your opponent controls. Until the end of your
Oh,
opponent's third turn, after this effect's or card's activation, place an 8 counter on each monster they summon. Normal summon, flip summon, special summon. All monsters they summon are getting 8 counters. You read the link negates the effects of all monsters on the field with A counters. So
oh
essentially,
my gosh.
monsters that activate their effects on summon, monsters with lingering effects, all of their effects are flat out negated. It's
Yeah.
BFD, but more affordable because it's actually not lingering.
Yeah.
So, generally, now I don't have all the cards here because it's not very consistent, and I didn't come up, well, not consistent. There's a lot to explain, and it's not my own combo. Someone else figured this out. I'm not that big of a genius. So the combo works like this. So you normal summon a Heratic monster, normally is Set or Tefnuit. The two that are getting
Okay.
reprinted in Ghosts from the Past, ironically. So you normal summon those. You have one of the extenders or one of the level 4s, Nihil or Null from the Abyss archetype, and you pitch them to pitch one of the level 8s. So you either do Curse or you do Aleph. You tribute the Heratic with the level 8, and you summon the level 8. A set to activate, or the Heratic effect lets you summon any level 8 or lower dragon from your deck, and its attack and defense becomes 0. You choose the level 8 normal tuner Dragon Core Hexer.
Uh-huh.
Since you have a level 8 tuner and a level 8 non-tuner, you synchro them off for Phantasmal Lord Ultimital Bish Balkan.
Okay.
And as we know, Bish Balkan's effect, you and your opponent get like 5 counters or 5 tokens each on the field with 0 attack and defense.
Oh
You link off
gosh.
Bish Balkan with one of your tokens, except for the one that's in the extra monster zone, into Reprodacus.
Uh-huh.
You turn Reprodacus and one of the tokens it's pointing to into reptiles, and then you link summon into Reptilian Echidna. Reptilian Echidna's effect is that during your main phase, if your opponent controls a monster with 0 attack, you can add reptiles with different names from your deck to your hand up to the number your opponent controls with 0 attack. Your opponent will have 5, so you get to search 5 reptiles.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And from there, you're
Wow.
essentially from there you're trying to facilitate a few summons. You take Echidna, and since you usually use Rapodicus with I think Rapodicus becomes a reptile too. Let me check that real quick. Um, just want to double check that I'm remembering this combo right, because I don't remember the entire thing off the top of my head, but like that's the basic idea. Okay, yeah, no, so Rapodicus doesn't. So what you end up doing then is I think you use Rapodicus, or to use one of the tokens with one of the other tokens to make Echidna, which a Rapodicus still points to. Echidna does her big search. I believe then what you do is you link off Echidna and something. I'm trying to remember the exact combo. Essentially, though, you essentially get to summon the Link 3. You search off Planet Pollutant.
Okay.
There's a way for you to get out an alien. You tribute an alien. You have a handful of reptiles you're able to pitch off. And there's the Link 2 alien, Alien Shock Trooper M-Frame, who can place more A counters. And when he's destroyed by a card effect or battle, you special summon non-link reptiles with different names up to the number of monsters your opponent controls with A counters, which should be most of them.
Wow.
I forget the exact combo. You can look it up because there are plenty of people who have showcased it.
That's just
I just know it
amazing, though.
involves what I said. You get a ton of searching off, you get a ton of summoning, and this is why I feel like Abyss has the most potential
Yeah.
right now out of the deck,
And that
because
makes
it gets
complete
huge search.
sense. Yeah. So some other cards here. We've got already some amazement support where you can reveal one Victurian trap from your hand, special summon this card. You can send one attraction trap from your hand or face up from your field to the graveyard. Set one attraction trap directly from your deck to your spell and trap zone. And then Vanquish Viking here. You can activate one of these effects based on the equipped monster's controller. First you target one amazement monster you control or one face-up monster your opponent controls. Equip this to that target. If you equip it to you once per turn, when your opponent's monster declares an attack, you can negate it. And if you do, change to control the equipped monster until the end of the battle phase. If it's your opponent, when the equipped monster activates its effect, you can return it to the hand. So pretty gimmicky, pretty interesting, but it's nice to see some amazement, attraction stuff happening. I think it's good. And then the final thing that we've got here, guys, is they are doing 24K gold-plated metal cards. They're actually pretty affordable if you order from the UK. They've got Karibo, Exodia the Forbidden One, and Blackluster Soldier. They've got Blue Eyes, Dark Magician. They are limited editions. They're 25 pounds. I don't know what that is, American currency.
Roughly $30.
Okay, so $30. So really roughly, not bad at all. So pretty good. So it's nice to see that kind of feedback here. So I'm going to go back to our original slide. Grunt, thank you so much. I know that was a long one, so thank you for taking the time to get us all caught up on Yu-Gi-Oh! News people might have missed. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. It's been a long 3 months. I would say 2, but again, we had to kind of go over Abyss and Dory Meat Court again, which, if you ask me, I think it's a good thing we did because a lot of stuff has happened.
We covered it better this time. I thought the same thing. Yeah, so that actually worked out. And then again, guys, Carlos had to leave, but there's his channel. He's definitely got lots of good stuff for you to check out there. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.